Hello, welcome to Jason Cabin's Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cabin's. Guest today is John Conafay. John, you ready to be great today?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, John, hopefully this is a softball question, but can you talk about some of the things that either you do for fun or some of your hobbies?
Yeah, absolutely. Just got back from Santa Fe on a trip with a bunch of good friends, and the criteria for the trip were good art, good food, and good people. And so we all stayed in this super funky house that was built for a prince and overlooked the Santa Fe Valley, and just had a weekend of good art, good food, and just talking about deep things and some not so deep things, of course. And I think that's a lot of it.
I don't think many people realize that Santa Fe is actually like one of those art destinations, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, everything about it just felt imbued with
Was that your
art.
first time there?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've been down to Albuquerque
Okay,
for some government work before, but that's all. Yep.
nice. And how long were you there for?
About 4 days.
And these friends, like this is like a yearly thing you do, you and your friends go somewhere every year or something, or
No, this is a I'm getting married
oh,
soon, and so don't want to call it a bachelor party because that makes it sound like I'm excluding people, but it was just a few friends just getting
yeah,
together and hanging out. Yeah,
nice, nice.
yeah.
And you were in the Air Force for a while, right?
Yes, yeah. I was communication navigation mission systems on AWACS up in
Okay.
Alaska
Oh wow,
for 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah,
What made you go in the Air Force? Just
yeah. I started a record label straight out of high school,
nice.
and yeah, I was like 17. I was deep in the hardcore metal music scene in North Carolina, Virginia, DC, and uh, yeah, I signed a few bands that I was deeply in love with. Didn't quite have the expertise, discipline to do really well by it. So after kind of falling flat on my face there, I wandered around for about a year and then realized, wow, I really need a swift kick in the ass, like real bad. And so went in the Air Force. My granddad was in the Navy in World War One, believe it or not. My dad was in did 3 tours in Vietnam, Silver Star, and then I went in the Air Force and fixed planes. But
And were you a musician, a singer?
I was not. I mean, I dabbled. I was in a few bands uh that I tried my best, but definitely better on the business end of things.
Okay, so you're more like a manager for the bands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So raised a little bit of money to essentially put them in the studio, help produce some of the records, and send them on tour and get all of that coordinated and organized. Immense amount of work trying to get
and the
bands on
bands
tour.
are a certain type of genre of music or just all kinds,
Metal and hardcore.
metal,
Yeah,
hardcore.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay,
So
like Metallica type music and Black Sabbath, that kind.
a little bit more extreme.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
even more extreme than that.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Time of Cholera was
okay.
one of the bands, and I was actually just hanging out with my buddy who was the bassist. Not my buddy, he's like a brother to me.
Yeah.
This weekend, but he was the bassist, and he's like one of the most prolific musicians in indie pop and metal that I know.
You ever get the itch to go back in the music business?
I've had the itch once or twice. I've been in the space industry for about a decade
Yeah.
or a little over a decade right now, and speaking of getting your ass kicked, it'll it'll make you consider a few other careers. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Music's not for the faint of heart. I mean,
yeah,
what's the saying? Starving artist that's out there for a reason,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm lucky to know a few that aren't, for sure, but yeah, it's a tough gig.
You think about being a musician or the music industry, it's just like having a startup, right? You gotta put your music out there, do an MVP, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
You know the odds are stacked against you probably.
yeah, exactly. And then if a record label comes along, essentially they are, if you get a great one, then they can work on all the operations and all the
Yeah.
operator crap for you and with you. If you don't get a great one, then they're not doing much and just kind of feeding off you.
And just like if you're a startup, you want to make sure you get the money from the right investor, right? Because
Exactly.
all money's not good money.
Yep, yep, very true.
A lot of parallels.
We've been insanely lucky, but to get investors that really dig in and
Mhm.
have been spectacular to work with. But I think my bullshit meter, as one of my former bosses, was honed through the music experience for sure in that way.
Definitely. So for fundraising, you recently raised a seed round or pre-seed?
We did pre-seed in June of 2022,
Okay.
and then we just raised a seed round this last year.
Okay. I mean, obviously don't go into details of nothing because you probably can't, but like right now, like I'm doing a fundraise, a lot of firms doing a fundraise,
Yeah,
and like the atmosphere is like they're pretty much people say, so wait it out, right?
yeah,
But you got a fundraise, right?
yeah,
Any advice you can give comparing your journey to other founders going through right now?
yeah. Somebody just tweeted, the secret to success is keep going. That's it. It was like, here are the secrets to success. Number one, keep going. That was true for us. But also when market signals are telling you you need to expand your scope a bit, listen to them. That was a big thing for us. We started in the space industry with a really, really tiny niche market that I knew incredibly well. And then my co-founder Andrew and I were sitting down having beers with somebody from or a few technical program managers from Apple and Google, and they were just like, "Why are you building this for the space industry? This is the technical program management software we've needed our entire industries." And I was like, "Oh, that's good." So we went out and interviewed a whole bunch of other customers in the middle of the fundraise,
Uh-huh.
and we were like, "Oh, we really."
I'm sure that was a nice to handle.
It was yeah, it was nice to hear,
Mhm.
for sure. And then it was nice to validate, like, well beyond. We went out and spoke to something like 50 to 100 potential customers. They were like, "Yes, for the love of God, please help us
Yeah.
with something," because yeah.
So of those 100 customers, like how many told you? I think a lot of channels, a lot of founders have now, like well, of course, they'll say, I talked to 100 people, 55 said they want to buy, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But then in the day, only like one or two actually buy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So how did you like translate to investors that, hey, investor, I've done 100 beta tests, letters of intent, blah, blah.
Yeah.
How many paying customers? One.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like,
yeah, yeah.
how do you
So
tell that story?
yeah, so something that worked against me initially is that I worked in the space industry, and at I saw a trend of people going through the whole LOI game, and how largely bullshit it could be, like complete bullshit. So I became really, really frustrated with that mentality and with the idea of going after LOIs, which it makes more sense for software because somebody putting down $40,000 for a piece of software, that's not necessarily our pricing, but as opposed to $2.8 million for a satellite services contract or 15 to 60 million for a rocket is a completely different game. So LOIs on the space side kind of led to me not really going after LOIs, which I wish I had earlier on. But now we have paying customers
Yeah.
that are re-upping government customers, so it's a little bit easier to tell the story. But those validating quotes, like saying, what we've been getting recently is, "This is how my brain works. This is this is what I've been waiting for," and we're getting a lot of validation there, and utilizing that seems to really help.
And so let me ask you this. So, of course, investors are going to due diligence on yourself, right? You're a founder.
Yeah,
But like, and they say those like due diligence on investors, but most founders don't have like multiple investors trying to invest in, right?
yeah, yeah,
You might have one, and you're like, man, if I don't take this money, I got to shut down, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, of course, you got to do due diligence, but does it really matter?
It does. There's a short list of investors that I would never ever take. I've said that before.
I have that list too.
Yeah, exactly. Where I would just like,
Yeah,
absolutely not. Like,
yeah.
I'd
Like
rather.
I'll get a 9 to 5 if I take your money.
Exactly. Yeah. And do whatever we need to do to figure out how to survive otherwise. Because um, I'm not down with the idea of being in, well, lack of a better phrase, being in bed with somebody for 7 to 10 years
Yeah,
that I can't trust and I don't think makes good decisions and
yeah.
all these things. So, luckily, I haven't necessarily been tested in that way. We had one or two.
So you have a few
Close.
investors, right? If I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
correctly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Village Global, Riot Ventures, Hyperplane, of course, who led our seed round, and
And although any of them Seattle based, all they are down in the Bay Area.
all Bay Area, Boston. So
Okay.
Hyperplane's out of Boston. Village, I believe, is in LA and San Francisco. and then Ravelin Capital is now in San Francisco. Incredible.
Did you try to raise in Seattle?
Not particularly. Like
Okay.
all of our networks were in the
Just
Bay
because
Area.
the wasn't working for the space community is not here or whatever. Or
Yeah. So I guess we were introduced to a few Seattle investors who are really, really loved. And we were trying to work with them, but it kind of went back to this TAM being too small with the space industry. And we actually had to hear about it
they
from,
said the TAM for the space industry was too small.
yeah.
It sounded like that'd be like a fucking $1 trillion TAM.
Yeah, I
Like what?
know. It's the first software in the
What?
space industry for what we're doing specifically. It's we definitely made the TAM work out within the space industry. At the same time, hardware, I would get on with investors and be like, the hardware TAM entirely is too small, and
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, where are you sitting right now? They're like in front of my laptop in my kitchen. I was like, okay, so the oven, the microwave, the TV,
Hardware.
the keyboard, the stereo, everything that you've got is too small of a TAM. Just making sure that's correct. And they've got a lot of investors have their thesis that they need
Yeah.
to stick to. So
Yeah.
totally get it. But yeah, definitely heard some weird.
Yeah. So I'm raising a safe now. One thing's been frustrating for me. Of course, I got my B2B HR tech company. So obviously I'm not gonna go to like a B round consumer tech, right?
Yeah.
But I'm learning a lot of these VCs out there when they say early stage, they mean A round.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
proceed. I'm like, what?
Yeah, not growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest I'm learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I really, really respect and appreciate the investors that say no,
Mhm.
like outright
Yeah, I
no,
love them to death.
and this is why. And there were a few, I'm not going to call them out, but there were a few investors in Seattle that did that and gave us a full page of why they were out and how it compared to their thesis.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was just like, I could not appreciate you as a human.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's like there's only 10% of them that do that, right?
Yeah, 10% is real generous. Yeah.
There's some good investors in Seattle, but then again,
Yeah.
like I guess everything else,
Yeah, there's some great investors. I was definitely heartbroken about one in particular that I don't know how many people know we're in this area. So, but that was in this area because I was such a huge fan of them.
Yeah.
Like they were every step of the way they were open and honest and direct about their feedback. And then when they said no, it hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the number one rule of fundraising is don't get attached, right?
Yeah, no, it's all business, nothing personal.
Exactly. Yeah, and wasn't offended by any. It was just like, damn, I really want to. Yeah. And then we went on to find the investors that we currently have, which I don't know. Like, I just feel wildly lucky. They just couldn't be any better.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when you're doing the funding rounds, how did you come up with the amount you want to raise? Right? Did you based on like hiring people, like some milestones, 12-month win rate?
Yeah. So we had our plan, and what's that famous quote? It's plans only matter.
The one by Mike Tyson,
or it's until you get punched in the face. Yeah. There's that one, and then there's like one about war. That's like strategies only matter until you get to the battlefield or something like this. So we had our plan for 4 million would be ideal to do this, and then market conditions were not perfect in 2020, early 2023. So we lowered it substantially and readjusted our plan. And then it's really about what the market can bear. You are selling a piece of your company fundamentally. And it's if the market's saying you're batshit insane for like the entire market's saying you're batshit insane for the specific valuation, we'll listen to it. Or if you're able to keep pushing through at those valuations and things like that, great. But yeah.
And how do you work picking your valuation? Because some people say like make it kind of low to like bring on early investors. Some say if you make it too high, you might fuck around, have a down round. Like that company, a Cameo. They have like celebrities do video messages for you.
Yeah.
So they just raised $28 million, but they lost like 90% of the value because
Oh,
they
yeah.
first started. All these big wigs jumped in,
Yeah.
and now they're like,
This is something that's driving me crazy right now as well. Is everybody's like, "Oh my god, this company raised a down round after raising 8.9 billion at a 200 trillion dollar
yeah,
valuation in 2021." And it's like, yeah, 2021 was psychotic. Like
yeah,
this, that we didn't 0% interest, money was cheap. People pumped a lot of money into a lot of things, and I'm not saying it was the wrong thing to do by any means, but can we stop talking about
yeah. I mean,
2021
yeah,
valuations?
that's a good point, right? That's a
Yeah,
good point. 'Cause I know some people would tell you only take the amount you need, nothing more.
yeah,
You have people like Reid Hoffman who started LinkedIn who will tell you if you only need a million, they offer you 25 million, take the 25 million
yeah.
because you might not get it next year.
That exactly. That, and if the past 3 years have not taught us that, I don't know what possibly can.
Yeah,
I mean, they've taught us two things, right? Taking too much can really really screw you and potentially your employees with down rounds.
yeah,
And I don't know if I want to go on a rant about AMT right now, but I always want to go on a rant about AMT, alternative minimum tax. Um, at the same time, you don't know if COVID's going to hit. You don't know
yeah,
if the economy is just going to completely
mhm,
take a shit, frankly,
yeah,
and all these things. And the probably the wisest advice I keep getting continuously is TTFM.
yeah,
Take the fucking money.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's yeah,
Of course, the fear is like human nature. If you raise a 1 million, they offer you 10, you take 10. The fear is like, oh, instead of getting a written office, I can lease a better space.
yeah,
Instead of paying my employees 80,000 a year, I can pay them 100,000 a year,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
It still adds up, right? It's
yeah.
still a startup, right?
Oh yeah,
And of course,
absolutely.
like if your employee knows, hey, I've been a software developer for 6 months working for free. I know you got $10 million.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm not working for minimum wage anymore. Like,
yeah, yeah,
so I think that might be a risk, but
yeah,
still, I'm more like you, like take the money. My thing too, like, suppose you raise, $10 million, right? You only need a million, right? If you need a fundraise in another year after getting $10 million, might be something wrong with your business
yeah,
model.
yeah, yeah.
We might be
That's
doing something wrong, right?
yeah, yeah. And I haven't been in that situation, so it's hard for me to say. But yeah, I'd agree with that. It's the I've been really lucky to be a part of really spectacular companies that have controlled burn
Yeah,
and made sure they run efficient operations. Um, and so I have that kind of imbued into
yeah,
me and beat into me is financial discipline is the way. Despite going through the 2021 ZERP
mhm.
era and everything. Um, but yeah, you got to constant self-reflection is pretty important.
Now they say once you get on the fundraising bandwagon, it's just like a circus will on forever, right?
Yeah,
So, like, are you already preparing for your A round right now, or that's in the future?
I think always preparing for every
Okay,
next round for sure. The only preparation that seems to that I think really matters is ensuring that we get customer traction and
yeah,
revenue. Like that's the number one. If we can get to a point where we want a Series A to be an actual growth round, an early stage growth round,
yeah,
but the ideal would be to make sure that we're doing it because we need to expand, not because we need to. You know,
yeah. So these investors you bought on, are they gonna help you? As part of them invest you gonna are they also gonna help you like get to the next round? Like, can like do referrals for you, say hey, that kind of stuff?
yeah, that's. I mean, Lucas Vaz from Raveling Capital, who started Raveling Capital, was our first check-in while he was at Village Global. And then while he was with Village Global, he and Dwayne from there helped. I mean, they must have made 140. I don't know, some insane number of
Insane.
introductions,
Yeah,
and obviously they can't guarantee
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
They're just like, if we think it's a good fit, we'll make an introduction. But yeah, Lucas in particular has continued to just work his ass off for us, as does Hyperplane and Riot and every other angel that we have on the
nice.
cap table.
So when you started doing your fundraising plan, whatever, was it all like referral based, people you knew, cold email, or a combination of everything?
Yeah, it was a combination of everything. The the power distance in fundraising is incredible because we do it 2, maybe 5 times a lifetime potentially as entrepreneurs. So I'd never done this before and actually gone out and put my neck on the line. So I reached out. I started just reaching out. I knew if I did just hit go, I could make every excuse in the world to not start. You know what I mean? So I hit go, and our first check in was the first person that I spoke to after leaving ABL, where I was selling rockets. And her name was Kira Lamack, and she made a whole bunch of intros to just kind of get the ball rolling. And then it seems like if you're onto something, those intros turn into more intros. And even if people are saying no or it doesn't fit their thesis or anything like this. And
Yeah.
then another number of angels who invested in our first round that helped just an immense amount.
Good, good. So back to Air Force. What are some things you learned from the Air Force that help you with your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah.
Or maybe not help you if that's the case.
Yeah. I think few of my bosses will probably laugh their asses off when I say attention to detail, but because I'm always a do a million things at once, and maybe not all of them 100%. You know what I mean? But I think that really serves me as a founder now, because no 2 days look alike whatsoever. So the ability to hop from one thing to another is spectacular, and good is the opposite of or what is it? Perfection's the opposite. You know what I mean? And so attention to detail was a big one that I didn't have in any respect when I was probably going into the military. Uh, integrity being so much of a value, particularly with the bosses that I had. Staff Sergeant Lemoyne was my first boss in Air Force, and I just owe an incredible amount to how much he taught me about true integrity in leadership. And I think that's, you can't get a foul of your own bullshit if you just don't bullshit, right? So I think those are things.
Yeah, someone's told me like always tell the truth, 'cause if you lie, you gotta remember who you lied to, what the
Exactly.
lie is.
Yeah.
It's too much. Just tell the truth.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like if you're a bullshitter and you're constantly out there weaving these webs and
Yeah,
stirring up shit and everything, it's a lot to keep track
it
of.
is. Yeah,
If
that's a wasted brain memory, wasted
yep,
brain power.
exactly.
Another thing I think military does as far as like training entrepreneurs, like the military, like you get kicked down, beat, like you fall down 10, get up 11, right?
Yep,
So
exactly.
resiliency building was a good thing
100%.
I got from it.
Yeah, and care for like definitely 50 pounds ago was the military for me, but I've at least kept some semblance of a regimen, or realized in the back of my brain that I have to work out to stay sane and
Yeah,
to be at the top of the game and all those things. So while weight control might not be there, it's staying strong and making sure I'm able to continue with the energy is the part.
yeah. So when did you get interested in space? When you
Yeah.
joined the Air Force, like as an early kid, like your early kid, like want to be an astronaut or something, or
Yeah, so this is actually kind of funny, because I always said I wasn't one of those 3-year-olds in diapers that looked up to the stars and was like, I want to be a 30-year-old in diapers on the ISS. Like, no, I'm very uh, astronauts are very, very cool people, so I don't mean to minimize it in that way or anything like this. But it turns out, I guess, in middle school, I was pretty intensely into astronomy. I remember my first love as a kid, and I'm a pretty passionate dude, was Egyptology, and then I guess that switched into astronomy somewhere along the lines. And I only remember this because my friend Cami sent me a yearbook excerpt that said, what would you leave to the world if you weren't here tomorrow? It's kind of dark for middle school, question or prompt. But I said my love of history and astronomy, and love of history has long gone, even though it's something that I uh, keep keep up on. But astronomy I completely forgotten about. So I guess I did have some love of space back then. Air Force really gave me the bug for aerospace. And then when I went to Arizona State University for design and economics after the Air Force, uh, and I was trying to start a company, and so I was looking for a CTO. And so I went to all these technology clubs, and I stumbled upon Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, which is a national organization with a chapter at ASU, and came for the technology, stayed for the people, just fell head over heels in love with the space industry, and it was really new space was really starting to kick off with Planet, SpaceX, Spire, and companies like this. So it was a really nice time to catch the wave.
So is it safe to presume that there's not very many dummies in the space industry? Like a lot of smart people.
Yeah. I haven't met a lot of dummies. One of my favorite aspects of it is everybody's just a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Like you have to be a little bit crazy because the stakes are so
Oh
high
yeah.
and the pressure is so high. And I was just on the phone speaking to somebody that it was like mission managers or the people that coordinate spacecraft onto rockets, just have, or the reason that that I started Intergrade initially are do some of the most complex work out there and get some of the least credit of
Yeah.
it. And yeah, you have to be a little bit crazy to push as hard as is necessary to put shit in space.
So
Full stop.
no, back in the day, only NASA did space stuff. Now it's like
Yeah.
anyone with $1 billion can do it now, right?
Yeah.
So is this
Yeah.
a good thing or bad thing? Do you think?
I think it's a great thing. Because so one of the reasons I was so passionate about working in the space industry, initially I interned at Spire Global. I was studying economics. I was specifically studying economics of poor countries, and had some really great professors there. And I realized that space gave us access to things like telecommunication in remote areas, where it's unaffordable or would be able to, which we're now seeing with Starlink and Kuiper and all these things. Um, and then there these other use cases, not to get too heavy, but I think in my cover letter to Spire when I was applying for the internship, I was super passionate about going there because they were doing ship tracking from space, which towers from the coast for AIS tracking of ships only go about 50 miles over the horizon or to the horizon. So when you get out in the middle of nowhere, it's the wild, wild west, which 70% of the Earth is covered in ocean. And what this enabled was catching not only pirates, but or ships that were in distress because of pirating, but human trafficking and things like this. And I was like, holy shit, there's a technology out there that can actually save and help real humans that are experiencing some of the worst that anybody could possibly experience. That's what first got it clicked with me. And that was started by someone, it was originally a Kickstarter, Nano Satisfy, And I mean, so not even the realm of billionaires. And then there was telecommunications, which we have geo satellites out there, these big gigantic $1.3 billion satellites that have been around since the 60s, I believe. And then, but with the advent of small consumer electronics allowing us to get smaller and smaller spacecraft, there had to be a way to actually build constellations like they dreamed of in the late 90s for the .com bust, for complete coverage of the Earth. And so I wrote a paper on that while I was at Bryce. Uh, and then got picked up by Astranis, because I was so passionate about the ability for satellite telecommunications to lift people out of poverty and other helpful ways.
Let me ask you this. So I think the first flight was like early 19 teens. JFK said in 60, we're going to be in the moon by the end of the decade.
Yeah.
Went to the moon 68, 69. But in 68, 69, and 9, we didn't do anything, right? Even though we had a space shuttle, I would argue the space shuttle step backwards, right? It's only going up the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It seemed like back in 69, they were probably thinking maybe we'd have colonized Mars by 2000. Like, what do you think we would have been at right now if we didn't take this like massive break from?
Step back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think having a permanent presence on the moon, like von Braun imagined, I think bad space historian, but had this mega realization when I was at Johnson Space Center, and I was like, man, they built a full model of of this gigantic rocket, and it was like, oh no, they had all of these the moon rockets built and just canceled. And so we have all of the ones that you see all around the country are just canceled moon programs, and the goal was to have people living and working in space. I think there are a lot of steps between here and there,
You
but
think it was a matter of someone not having the vision, like maybe like, I don't know, director of the NASA or the president of the United States or some big wig saying, I have the vision.
I think they had the vision. I think people got bored. I'm pretty confident people just got bored. And there's always the question of why send people to space when we have so many problems here on Earth? And the thing about that is it's not mutually exclusive whatsoever. You don't have to stop one thing to
Yeah.
try to improve other things. And technology innately helps. I mean, water purification
Yeah,
from ecosystems on
exactly.
orbit and things like this benefit large parts of the population. And going back to this economic development of poor countries or economically disenfranchised companies or countries, the number one indicator of whether an area is going to be economically disenfranchised is geographic isolation,
Mhm.
and there are very few ways to bridge that gap. So I do fully believe that space benefits humanity and Earth, whether or not the publicity around the people that are doing it benefits that
Yeah.
that tail.
I've always just liked the argument, we can't do it because like, we have poor people, better resources.
Yeah,
I know every instance where like they stop doing something to get money, like no disadvantaged people.
yeah,
5, 10 years later, nothing's improved, right? Even
yeah,
though they transfer the money,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah. It's not always just um a money problem.
oh yeah,
You
no,
can't
it's
just
not.
put money
And
somewhere
that's a
and just
problem.
be
Yeah,
like, okay, and magically like there are real physical
mhm,
issues and logistics issues with getting to places that
yeah,
are sub-zero temperatures or that are completely geographically isolated that don't have rivers into um, uh, to access those areas. And that's where planes started in the exact same way that space did, and so did trains. Is we needed a way to get
yeah,
into
exactly.
those areas, and now we have the ability to get to completely uh, um, landlocked areas that we were never able to access before, and we've seen economic improvement from there. So that's technology. That's we take it for granted, but
I know.
that's technology much akin to what we're building in space.
Exactly. So I'm asking you for a space prediction. I'll give you mine. My prediction is like 5 to 10 years, we're gonna have space hotels in space
Yeah,
where people can, instead of going to Caribbean cruise or going to Hawaii,
yeah.
then go to space for 2 or 3 days, look down the whole Earth and look out in space.
I would love. I mean, I would love that. I love space for the technology and the people actually in it. But we have commercial LEO destinations, which is happening with Voyager and Blue Origin here locally, building space stations, and the government actually actively putting in Axiom as well, putting money into uh, concept builds, but also actually building these space stations. So the goal for your commercial LEO destinations, I think, is 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
You might not know this, but I saw a picture one day with all the space junk in outer space, right?
yeah,
How bad is space junk? Is it as bad as the picture I saw? Like there's literally like a piece of space debris like everywhere.
yeah, yeah. Far more intelligent people than I would be able to give you a clearer picture of how bad it is. But the way I've heard it described before is there's big space people and little space people, and if you think space is really, really small, then you're very, very concerned with the space junk problem. If you think space is very, very large, then you're not as concerned. But the analogy that I have heard, which I think oversimplifies it by a lot, is go throw 1,000 or 10,000 refrigerators into the ocean and then try to find them, and then
Okay.
you have the actual area that expands significantly as you get farther and farther away from the Earth. So it's the problem is not as bad as that necessarily. At the same time, I think responsible stewardship of space to be able to access the resources that we need from space, whether it's telecommunications, ship tracking, optical, is something that the fact that we are acknowledging the tragedy of the commons is a real thing is good.
Yes. So you have two co-founders, correct?
Yep.
Can you tell the story about that? Like you all had the same idea at the same time. You brought the co-founders on later on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'll start. with Paul, who I met 10 years ago while we were doing a microgravity research project with our mutual buddy Jack Lightholder. Um, Paul was writing software for the microgravity project, and that was where we went up on the Vomit Comet, and we were studying protoplanetary disk formation with that project specifically. Incredible team. So I met Paul through that. He's just knocked out. And we've been friends, really, really great friends ever since. And he was 4-tour Army Ranger, and just very get shit done.
So he's a
mentality.
ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are real deal. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like I have a lot of respect for rangers. Like I was in the Army 25 years, but yeah, the Rangers they don't fuck around. Like
Nope.
they're
Yeah.
they're the real deal. Like yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we bonded over, and what I've realized is a really common thread between all the close friends that I have is it's just very get shit done mentality.
yeah.
And so I was building a no code version of what I wanted to build on like Bubble or something, just making sure I could get a concept built and just get started. And we're gonna have some beers, and he looked over my shoulder and he was like, "That looks like shit. Can I just build this for you?" And I was like, "Yeah, man. What like how much would it?" So started with him contracting, but
And that's a very ranger thing.
oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
yeah, that's a
absolutely,
very ranger
yeah,
thing to
yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. So so he's been building software for the past 10 years or more. Something that we didn't tout during our fundraise is that he has two degrees in machine learning, specifically from Johns Hopkins and somewhere in Oregon. I should probably know better, but and yeah, he was deploying machine learning algorithms for CNBC before joining full time Integrate and becoming co-founder. Yeah, and then Andrew.
So I'm gonna come back to your founders in a minute, but you were talking about the get shit done mentality.
Yeah.
Was it transitioning for you to go like from the military, was the can't get shit done mentality to a civilian world where like a lot of them were like, yeah, I do it when I get ready to, right? How did that work for you? Because I struggled with it.
Yeah, I definitely did, and I think a lot of it is what pointed to. It's still academics were not my focus. Once I found students for the exploration development of space, somebody said, "You seem like you're at a crossroads in your life right now, and you got to pick a path, man. Like, are you going to go all in on space? And because people can just sense when you're 1 foot out the door." Because I thought economics major, what the hell am I going to do with space, and once we actually took off from that microgravity flight, I very much was in. So, but yeah, I struggled hardcore with the get shit done mentality that other people seem to lack. The person that got me into SEDS, the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, was a former Marine, of course, and so he had that mentality in spades. Ben Stinnett, just absolutely pulled me in and showed me that there are other get shit done people, and that it's not only vets, but vets seem to have that kind of differentiator to them. Um, and yeah, I struggled with it with a lot of people, and I struggled with it in a way that I couldn't fundamentally understand probably until 3 months ago, maybe,
Yeah.
where I really, really, so we're talking over a decade to really try to figure out what drives me, what drives other people, and how to find those people. And we're the only, yep, we're the only two vets on the team. And at the same time, it makes a difference. And we have a whole team of really hardcore get shit done people, so it's not always the
Yeah.
case. But it is interesting, and it was difficult for me a lot to just be like, just do the thing, just take ownership
I
and
know.
make it happen, Yeah.
When my first post army job, I did HR for a seafood plant in Alaska, tried the seafoods. And like the first meeting is like everyone there, like the engineering people, all the people. And the plant manager told the engineering person, I need you to do something. Can you get it done in, next few days?
Yeah.
The guy told him, how are the priorities right now? I might get to it in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I passed the fuck out. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And you said this out loud in public?
Yeah. Exactly.
And plant manager said, okay, no problem. I can wait 3 weeks. I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how y'all making a profit? Like, what's going on here? Right?
Yeah. There
But
was that's the exactly. There was someone that I was speaking to before. It's kind of, I don't know him terribly well, and I won't say who it was, but just kind of wandering and just bopping around, and in the 30s, which okay, cool, like figure stuff out. But it kind of came down to a really, really core feeling where I was like, don't you want your parents to know
Yeah.
that you're gonna be okay?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Like that you have the capability and
Yeah.
the ability and
Like
understanding
they don't
that
have to
life
worry about taking care of you when you're 35, 40 years old.
exactly, or they're not gonna be around forever, and that always hits hard for me. Dealt with a lot of deaths in my in my life, and I didn't realize until recently how much that's a driving principle of mine is like, I want my dad and my mom and, my step family to know that I'm gonna be okay
Mhm.
if, if God forbid they were to not be here tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
And
So here's a funny story for you. Talking about get shit done, right?
yeah,
Sometimes people get shit done when you think they're not right.
yeah,
So I was a captain in Korea. I was a 2ID. My job was like basically everyone that came to 2ID is the Army Division
yeah,
to assign them to the job, right?
yeah,
Except for like generals and colonels or whatever. Everyone else I
okay.
assigned them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so this PFC, this Korean kid, right?
yeah,
Every time I walk by his computer, he like had a bunch of stuff on his computer. I'm like, what is this guy doing, right?
yeah,
So after 2 weeks, I called in my like the one officer, the E7, the second lieutenant, like, hey, we got to get rid of Kang, PFC
yeah,
Kang. Like, what the fuck does he do? Every time I walk by, he's just the same computer screen.
yeah, yeah,
They all said at the same time, sir, if you get rid of him, we're all going to get fired.
yeah.
Because, okay,
Yeah,
well, how do we get this guy promoted then? Because shit,
yeah, yeah,
he was
yeah,
that important, like,
yeah, yeah,
but basically, like, did all the research, everything we did, right? We
yeah,
had no idea, right?
yeah, oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
Like we all rely on him, right? He that's just what he thinks. Like, okay,
yeah,
well, we should have told me that because, like,
yeah.
I'd like send this dude somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the same thing going from, that was a huge learning curve and a huge, blind spot for me going to software from hardware, because hardware, it's very visceral. You see things progress and you see people building and welding and doing all these things. You see parts come in and assemblies go out and all this. And it was a huge blind spot that it took me a few months of getting into software to realize that like software engineers are doing highly, highly complex things, and something that you think might be the most simple, like just add this button here. They're like, okay, but have we considered X, Y, and
Mhm.
Z? And you're like, "Ugh, that's going to take too long." And then everything breaks because you forced something
Yeah,
through,
yeah. That's
and
always
it
like
was like,
the
my
challenge,
bad.
right? Always
Yeah,
the challenge, right?
yeah, exactly. And it was a huge learning curve. Luckily, we have spectacular software engineers and now an incredible head of engineering that have really, really taught me how to understand this, how to think through this, and much like the PFC Kang uh, example that you were talking about, just be like, they're working their asses off.
Yeah,
Just because you're not seeing people weld
yeah,
shit together
yeah,
doesn't mean
yeah.
they're not doing it.
I
I
mean,
was like, yep,
every time I walk by his desk, now, no, granted, maybe once a day,
yep,
different time. Every time I walk by, he had the same computer screen. He'd just be there looking at it like, what's this dude doing?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
they told me at the same time, get rid of him. We're all getting fired,
yeah,
sir.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Say less.
Yep, exactly.
Say less.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So how did you go about hiring your engineering people, right? Because that's one challenge I had when I first started out. Like, like when I first started, I'm a not tech founder. I found like the guys, all software developers solve problems.
yeah,
Critical learn that's the case,
yeah,
Critical learn that some of them not as good as they think they are, right?
yeah,
So how was your plan? How do you like execute hiring
yeah,
your talent?
yeah. The one of the luckiest things that's ever happened was one of my buddies, Faris Hamdi, who I knew from Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, called me up once we had the term sheet, we had it signed, money had been transferred, and so we are like, okay, we got to hire at least one new software engineers very quickly. And this dude just has always busted his ass, get shit done, epitome of had one of the biggest SEDS chapters at UCSD with another friend, Darren Cherrier. Anyway, he called me up and he was like, "Hey, dude, I got a software engineer for you. She's like total badass. Worked with her at my former company. You gotta check this out." And I was like, "Hell yeah, man! Thanks so much. I trust his opinion because I know how hard he works and how much of a startup mentality he has." I was like, "Let's do it. Can we schedule something right now?" Blah blah blah. And after we get through to the hell yes, he's like, "Full disclosure, she's my wife," and I'm just like, "Shit, like I can't. I don't know. if this goes sideways, I don't know what to do
And
because
odds are it's going to go sideways.
yeah, except unbelievable. Did contract to hire with her name's Kelly Higa. She's on the team, and we lucked out for her first hire. We could not have. She's
Yeah,
still on the
that's a
team.
big risk you took, though.
It was a big risk.
Oh
It
man,
was a
it's a big
big risk. Except on the contract to hire, she just you just know when people just get it, have the mentality and all this. Does spectacular work. So she was our first hire, and
Is she still with you?
oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, yeah, we have a lot to thank for her sticking through the first 6 months of me learning how to not be a jackass, and then ever since, we have Paul and Kelly to lean on to better understand. We just keep hiring spectacular engineers, and then we realized the need for an engineering leader as well. My best friend in the world, Neil Shaw, is a world class recruiter as well. So he helped us find some people, including this dude Bobby Borshik, who was the first one of the first two engineers at Carvana, and then took them through and was their first director of engineering. Took them through 450 hires on the engineering team. Saw the other side of an IPO and all this, and so really knew it when it comes to startups. Carvana obviously is doing great for themselves. And so we have him in, and yeah, our engineering team's just screaming right now. Just couldn't be doing better.
So back to your co-founders, and obviously don't tell us the details, but so all three of y'all came on about the same time.
Yep.
How do y'all decide the equity split?
Yeah. So actually went on to do a calculator online. Went and did multiple calculators online. Um, there was a little bit of begrudging becoming a co-founder from one person that I won't name. It's one or two, but and so it took a little bit of convincing there. So the equity split was already sort of um, decided before he officially became a co-founder. But went onto a calculator and said, okay, these are all the things each of us is contributing. Um, you know, Calculate it for us, and we got two answers from each of these calculators, and was like, okay, let's go with between these two answers, and I think it was pretty fair. I don't think for founders out there, I think it's a mistake to just go full equal equity split.
Yeah, everyone says never do 50-50.
Yeah, never do 50-50. It's I think there could be resentment when you're breaking yourselves in the shore of fundraising, which for some people, hell yeah, they've done it once or twice before. They know how to do it well. All these things for first time founders, it'll most likely be one of the most painful things you've ever done in your entire professional life.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're doing that, and um, yeah, I think resentment can build if you do a 50-50 split and one of them's not fundraising. Yeah,
So are you giving equity to your employees also?
absolutely.
How did you decide that? Like to give obviously like people don't realize like the pie's 100%, right? So if you give an employee like 10%,
Yeah,
you're screwing someone down the line. So how did you make
yeah.
make that fair so that between current employees and future employees?
Yeah, good amount of research, but also speaking to our investors and speaking to any of our angel founders, seeing what there's a good app. Hope I get paid for this placement, but I'm currently not. Called Pave, that gave a really good idea of not only equity but compensation for first employees, and so used that. Also went a little bit higher because we wanted to make sure we kept a tight team, kept expenses low, because the thing that I say is none of this really matters if we're not here next year. Yeah.
So do you have like a hiring plan? Like, you plan like hire 2 engineers by the end of the year or
Yeah,
like,
we do have a hiring plan. Another application that has just given me superpowers is Pry.co. where you can actually put in your hiring plan, how much you plan to pay each person, and it'll do all of your runway calculations and everything for you with real data, pulling from QuickBooks or whatever ERP you're using. So we have it in there, but we also have a not hiring plan. Like
You know what? That's an even better one if you ask me.
yeah, exactly. It's like we've learned that adding more people does not necessarily mean more productivity, and there's a tuning point you get to where things
Yeah,
are
I've heard
really
that term before.
screaming.
Yeah,
Yeah, where things are really screaming and humming, and you want them to be, and the energy's high, and every single time you add a new person, it is going to be a major disruption. I don't mean that in a not worth it way whatsoever. I just mean it's going to be, you got to teach them everything
yeah,
that they have to know about a wildly complex code base, or everything they need to know about a wildly complex software, or how our culture
yeah. The
works,
culture
and
thing
don't be
big
an
too.
asshole. And
Yeah,
that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. When we have a big neon sign that says "Don't fuck up" in the office, it's tongue in cheek. It's not, it's not a like, don't make mistakes.
yeah,
It's a, don't fuck up.
yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of startup founders, they were like, they'll go hire like three C players. We'll just throw people the problem, right? Not realizing like it's gonna fucking take your company back.
it makes all the difference in the world. We've had some really, yeah, yeah, it makes all the difference.
Let me ask you this, right? To push back a little bit, like, of course, everyone says hire A players, right?
Yep.
But most A players, like we take software developer, right?
Yeah.
Here in Seattle, most A players are starting their own company,
Yeah.
or they work from Amazon or Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
And then so they'll say hire a B player.
Yeah.
So you hire a B player.
Yeah.
Then they say B players don't hire A players.
Yeah.
They hire C players, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you keep them going down that rabbit hole, so to speak?
Yeah.
Because you got to hire someone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless
Or, I mean, I think what I've learned now is that you don't have to, unless you have to. Like, we had to hire, Kelly and the people that we have now, because we're just getting to different tiers and customer support and needs, things like this. Um, but yeah, I think maintaining a standard, running a process. We didn't run a process, and it always on um in some ways, and it always bit us in the ass. Like, not in a big, we've always hired good people. Um, but there is a point where um you can't afford to not run a process.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
it does.
Like,
It does.
yeah, 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 yeah. Because if there's one lesson that I have learned, that I should just listen to everybody every single time, is run a process, run a good
Yeah.
process, and trust your gut.
Oh yeah, that's a
Well,
big thing too.
man, I like, if I got full, and that's, again, not to say that
It's
we
a
hired
lesson learned,
anybody
right?
bad. It's just for fit.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest thing, is different stages of company require different things. And if you have this 10% of your brain, or even 5% of your brain, that's like, not right now, like,
Yeah.
this at this point in time, it's not a good idea. Listen to it, you know.
And so you started a company in 2021 or 2022?
2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I saw that you recently hired a. Oh, sorry about that.
All good.
So I saw you recently hired a director of sales. Why now? Like, was it based on revenue you thought you were missing out on, or
Yeah. Yeah.
or is the investor tell you to do that?
Yeah. Little A, little B, honestly. We got to a point where, um, I kind of thought I could sell anything. It sold telecommunications, rockets, and all these various things. So it was like, complex hardware, I can do this. It's software. How hard is that going to be? A lot more competition in software. Turns out, a lot more elasticity in demand and need. Uh, but also a lot more process in software. Selling is the first step, and then activating is a much longer process afterward. So, half of selling software feels like, somebody again sent me a tweet. Feels like 70% of selling software is the project management afterward to ensure that they don't churn things like
The
this.
onboarding, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. And I am not somebody with 20 years of experience selling software specifically. And so we got to a point where it was clicking with our customers, and we've done some price experiments and things, and we got into a place where it was like, okay, we've gotten to a sale in 2 weeks as opposed to 3 to 6 months
Mhm.
while we're building this thing, putting the wings on the plane while it's flying. We're at a place where the application is so undeniably feature rich that it is time. And one of our investors was like, go hire a head of sales immediately. As long as the application is ready to be sold, go do it. They have the connections, they have the experience, they have the processes, all these things. And so we listened to them, and we hired this amazing recruiting firm. One thing that I think a lot of companies do is they hire people in the industry that they know, as opposed to the industry
That's
that.
not always the best thing to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done that, and it just wasn't the right fit, timing and fit. That's all. And so we've worked with this incredible recruiting firm, Next Frontier, and Andrew Goldberg, and found a dude that's been obviously didn't have to be a dude, but this guy that spent 10 years in
Mhm.
semiconductors, was trained mechanical engineer, and then flipped to ANSYS, and 10 years in SaaS software, and just knew his shit. And really, the one thing that we weren't going to do is get somebody that could just hire a team to do things.
Yeah, you
We were
no,
like,
no.
we
Yeah.
needed somebody that could
Yeah, like
roll their
we're
sleeves.
like we're not Salesforce. Like,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah. And so he had the no bullshit or has the no bullshit spectacular attitude of like, I'm gonna get this shit done
Yeah.
because I look forward to building a team, but that's not where we are right now. And he
Yeah.
just gets it. So getting that sales cycle down on the commercial side, knowing that we're at a place where customers are ready to receive us, and we have a heavy DoD and government focus, and a lot of my time needing to be spent there and wanting to be spent there.
I wish I knew, like, has to be some stat out there that shows like how many startups fail because they brought in a former VP of Microsoft, a former VP of Amazon,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and they're like, like, where's my team?
yeah, exactly. And I hmm, how do I put this? I can be enough of an asshole that that I knew I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I didn't want some bullshit pontificator. I wanted somebody that came in and hit the ground running, and he did and continues to. And it's not an easy job
No,
at
no.
all. And he's just kicking ass.
So a couple weeks ago, I saw this on LinkedIn. You went to something called a satellite conference and exposition. Can
Yeah,
you talk about that?
yeah. So my hometown is DC, Washington DC. So like actually born at either Sibley or Georgetown Hospital in DC. There's a funny story about why that's up for debate, but um, um, and so this conference so happens to be hosted in DC. I think it's like 20 to 30,000 people, which feels like the entire space industry sometimes. But it's home turf. We do a lot of government work, so being in DC has its benefits as well, for a week. And we like to throw parties as opposed to exhibit at conferences because uh, I think people get a lot more out of them, and we're all about building community and integrate the software that we're building is about collaboration. So we've got a lot of cool things that we can do at parties for that. So yeah, we went. I think we had 23 meetings in 2 days, because we're not going to just stand around and say hi and have drinks with people and everything. And yeah, got in front of a lot of cool customers, and are working on um, bringing them on board now.
And this like every year this happens.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
every year in March.
What's some other like space industry like conferences that you go to
Yeah,
or out there?
yeah. There's Space Symposium, which is coming up next week, which we will not be attending. And then there's my it's a beautiful setting. Yeah. And then all-time favorite space conference, gotta say, is the SmallSat conference in Logan, Utah. They're now two SmallSat conferences, but the one that I love so deeply is in Logan, Utah every year. So not terribly easy to get to, but it's held at Utah State University, and it's like half students, so you don't just get this jaded, like, I'm here to do business, and why do I have to listen to your bullshit? You're like surrounded by really, really excited, not jaded students and other people, and it just kind of imbues and it's fun and relaxed,
Yeah.
and they have Hawaiian shirts days and all of these things. So I think we're gonna go. We actually got a booth this year, which generally I don't do, but the campus is so wide that we just wanted to be able to sit in one place and have all of our meetings. And I think we're gonna make it look like a dive bar. I'm pretty excited.
Is there a university out there, either in the States or in the world, that's known for like being like really focused on space, like maybe have a
Yeah.
great master's space degree program or something along those lines?
Yeah, so I'm gonna name two that are really well. No, I'm gonna shout out to Arizona State University, which is where I went. I don't think I would have gotten into the space industry if it weren't for working in this beautiful interdisciplinary sciences #4 building that had a big Curiosity rover model and all of these unbelievable labs that I had the opportunity to work in and around, and just really great people. And I think ASU has something like 30 missions. They've been lunar, every picture that you've seen of the moon, not every picture, but any surface map of the moon has probably been processed through ASU. They also have Jim Bell, who's built, I think, every camera that has landed on the surface of Mars, and Phil Christensen for amazing Mars research. They have a whole Mars. I just think when people think ASU, they don't think of that, despite the incredible.
They think the party school.
Exactly. Even though Michael Crow bulldozed Reek Rowe when he got there, if there are three people in the world that I want to sit down and have dinner with, Michael Crow's up there because of the absolute transformation that he's sent ASU through. It's a world-class research institution right now. People don't necessarily think about it, but the Psyche mission going to a metal world is coming out of ASU. And then the other ones are definitely CU Boulder, Purdue, for sure. I think a little bit of USC, and San Luis Obispo as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll probably make this up, but I remember hearing or reading somewhere on the internet. We all know everything on the internet is true.
Yeah,
Is the moon the size of Australia?
that's a great question.
Because I always thought, I
No
read that,
idea.
I just thought that can't be true because I always thought the moon's like,
Pretty sure.
obviously
Yeah.
not big as the Earth, but I thought
Yeah.
it was like kind of bigger
Yeah,
than
I think
Australia.
I think it's I think it's bigger. I don't. Yeah, I think it's much bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I might.
most people don't get opportunity to work for one unicorn.
Yeah.
You work for three. I'm sure you're hoping you're about to build the fourth
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah.
So how did that happen, right? Just a matter of luck, knowing the right people.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that's a hell of a resume to work in 3 unicorns.
Yeah.
I'm sure that had to help you out with your fundraising too, I would think too.
Yeah.
I'm sure it didn't hurt.
Yeah, I think I don't think it hurt. But I was lucky enough to work directly for the founders of 2 of those unicorns. The Spire, I was an intern, and early on, and I kind of got to sit in the bullpen for a little while early on, alongside uh, people that are really respected. Jenny Barno, Jenny Kuhn, who's the director of launch there, and Nick Elaine and a few other people. So I got to really see some of the shit that was going on as an intern, which was really cool. Um, and then worked directly for John Gedmark and Ryan McClinko, and then directly for uh, my good buddy Dan Piedmont at ABL Space Systems. So it was amazing to see the level of effort that everybody put in, those founders particularly, and how they thought of things. And I definitely got my ass handed to me a few times. And then I worked for another founder, Krista Christensen, who just changed my entire perspective and life and work ethic and everything. And I owe her an incredible amount. It was intense, but I think luck has a lot to do with it, but also a lot of passion. I mean, I don't think there's a single person that's ever met me that'll accuse me of being dispassionate about something. And so, my resume looks like it jumped a lot, but startup years are pretty much equivalent to dog years. So you spend a year or 2 years somewhere, and you'll learn more than just about anything.
So I'm guessing if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I have this great startup idea. I'm gonna start my startup," you would tell them that's all fine and good, but go work for another startup first.
Yeah, I've told people that a million times. I don't think you have to, as long as you are open to learning hard lessons the hard way. Um, I mean, I still learned a million. We just spoke about 3 lessons that I had to learn the hard way because I was being a stubborn bastard and didn't run a process for hiring or any of these things. I don't think you have anything to lose working for a startup, as long as don't work with assholes.
Yeah.
Make that a fundamental rule. Don't work with
And
assholes.
with that, when someone tells you they're an asshole, believe them. Like
Bingo.
don't wait, don't say
Exactly.
3 or 4 more times. Like maybe do 2 chances. Second time that you know they're an asshole, that's time to start looking for something else.
100%. 100. Yeah, it's um yeah, reading also, if you can't recognize an asshole, if you haven't been through enough in life to recognize an asshole, go pick up the book, The No Asshole Rule, and you'll identify assholes in your life real quick. Yeah. Yeah.
So this one thing I think founders don't do well enough, but talk about the concept of beautiful design.
Ah, oh yeah. Um, so this actually pulls us back to Andrew Sloan, our third co-founder, who I met because he had started a design agency called Cosmos Schema. I hadn't known him at the time at all, but they came out swinging saying space industry has a design problem. It's all swooshes and stars and all these things. And he had a really, really cheeky, smart ass space industry logo creator that was that essentially just rolled through stars and then swooshes and the star lab or star whatever, all these things. So I hit him up on Twitter and I was like, dude, your design and aesthetic and everything is just spectacular. And we started talking a little bit through there. And then we met in line at Virgin Orbit party at Smallsat and Logan, and realized we both were from the DC area or DMV, and got along and became friends there. Um, and design's always just been an incredible part of my life. My mom has always really, really imbued me with a love of arts. And then as I got older, my dad really imbued me with a love of different types of art, but different types of aesthetics and things like this. Um, got being a big shoe guy from my dad, and so I've always really loved beautiful things because of my parents, and being taken to art museums when I was 5 and things like this. And it always just clicked that when something worked, like, form does follow function in a lot of ways. And it's just reading the Ferrari movie, or watching the movie, and he was like, things that tend to be more beautiful tend to work better as well.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah, you're right. It
It's
is.
Yeah. When we're setting out to build this company, Andrew and I were really, really highly aligned because we'd known all these mission managers that were really, really burning out because they didn't have tools and such a hard job, and we wanted the application to feel like a warm hug and not something that you just dread going
The
into.
cold darkness of space.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We wanted to be comforting to actually use, and that was a huge goal in it. And so he was one of the first people that had brought into the fold and asked to work with because he knows beautiful design and
So your product roadmap, several questions like, is that something that is open to everyone to look at? Can someone go to your website and say, add this to your product roadmap or feature requests? And then like how often do you update? Like do you have like a monthly team meeting where you're like, okay,
twice a week.
twice a week? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's okay, twice a week, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have a North Star, and we know the big chunky features that are going to be coming out in a year for sure. At the same time, there are a million medium and smaller features or table stakes features and things like this. We do not yet have the ability for feedback to be submitted through the website directly,
Okay.
but we have early design partners. We have paying customers who have been spectacular and unabashed with their feedback, and it, it's magical to be completely honest. How appreciative we've been of the honest feedback that we get from customers like like nanoracks and ESAR and things like this, and the government as well. But we want to prevent whiplash as much as humanly possible. So we actually increase the cadence of product roadmap meetings to twice a week, so that we're not just yanking our engineers around from topic to topic, which was I was wildly guilty of initially. This customer said we need to do it immediately, and I
What do
found
you mean you
myself,
can't work 24/7?
yeah, exactly, and just like ridiculous shit like that I just had to learn on the job, and how to be better to our employees in that way. So sort of counter, we increase the cadence of product roadmap meetings so that Andrew is and he has a product designer on his team, Ethan Holtzclaw, who's just kicking ass and taking names as well. Um, so that we knew that we were perfectly straight on what the roadmap for a year, if we're lucky on the big shoot. It always gets very foggy out there, and then but the nearer roadmap is to make sure that we had smooth transitions between projects, because it matters. We're building a beefy app.
So what has to happen for something to change? Does it has to be like a majority rule or like unanimous rule or?
No, we just put a knife in the middle of the table, and whoever gets to it first.
Okay.
Joking. No, 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 no. We're not a big design by committee
Okay.
company at all. We are, if something's changing, it's because of high conviction,
Okay.
and confidence in the change for sure. And we talk about it, absolutely, but it's not. I have too much respect for Andrew and Bob, everybody on the team, to just be like, it's my way or the highway. That's never going to be the case,
Yeah.
either. But it's driven by high conviction, whether it's
Okay.
whether it's from our customers through us, or just knowing what we need to do.
And for the government work, is that like through SBIRs or actual government contracts?
Yeah, so we have an SBIR currently, which we're fairly ahead of schedule on, and I can't say too much about the rest of it, but it's looking, it's our customers seem happy,
Okay.
and we're under promise and over deliver. Uh,
And is the
as much as we
majority
can.
of your customers government?
So the majority of our revenue is government
Okay.
for sure. We have, actually, it's about 50-50 on the quantity of program offices versus commercial customers right now.
And for civilian customer, what kind of customer you have on the civilian side?
Yeah, mostly space right now. We are actively working to expand into eVTOLs and robotics, but very, very precisely. We're going to spend as much time as we can on these other verticals, but the goal is to really, really saturate the space industry, because we know it. We originally built for it, even though we re-architected the entire organization and program to be able to work with any complex hardware out there. We've probably pigeonholed ourselves with our branding early on, but now you get to our website, it's this gigantic splash of medical devices, launch
Yeah.
systems, all these
Yeah.
things, and be like, we're not just space. We're truly. Yeah.
So talk to the process of figuring out your pricing model.
Mm.
Can I be honest with you? When I first took your price model, I know nothing about it. It just sounded like really low to me, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So um yeah, I did not realize I would be spending 80% of my time thinking about pricing at any given moment, like staring up at the ceiling when I'm sleeping on pricing. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Largely, we realized that point of entry for engineering software was too high across the board. And where we are, there are services that are inherently more expensive, such as AWS GovCloud, or the fact that we have to have an all US team to get government contracts and to be ITAR, International Trade and Arms Regulation compliant and everything. And originally we baked all of that into the price, and so it was a wildly inaccessible price. Like, I didn't step back and say, would I pay for this at this price? But we're looking at price elasticity. And so I spent a lot of time really breaking down like what's the entry point for this that's acceptable without shortchanging ourselves and without having to raise the price later. And also, what can we decouple from the initial price that people don't give a shit about? Because people don't really give a shit how complex your application is or how hard it was to build or anything, because they're 30-year incumbents that are pricing you out of the water. And so we went more equitable to some of our mainstream competitors initially, but there are things that have to be paid for, like AWS GovCloud is an additional charge. And we're not trying to dupe anybody by that mean, but decoupling pricing has given us a lot more feedback on how people access the application, what they're willing to pay, and their need for the application for sure.
So what does it mean? Like, what is like SOC 2 and ITAR compliant? What is that? Is like cybersecurity stuff
Yeah,
or?
SOC 2 is cybersecurity. It's how you hold your employee data. So we're pretty psychotic about security because we are a multi-tenant architecture, and while we are very, very confident in our procedures and everything around that, customers need a little bit of security as well, or confidence in that security. So, yeah, going through SOC 2, and then international trade and arms regulations is just how the U.S. dictates the export of data specifically. So if somebody wants to have the confidence that their data is not going offshore, we have it in AWS GovCloud as opposed to standard AWS instances that could have servers accessed by non-US persons and things like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
So you said like, because you have government contracts, all your people have worked in the United States.
Yeah.
But like, how do they verify that? Like, you have to show tax records or birth records, or like, how do you prove that your people work in the United States?
I-9 verification.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's clear on our job postings that the international trade and arms regulation compliant.
Okay.
You have to be a U.S. person to work at the.
Now, can it be born like Dallas, Texas, but like work for 3 months in Thailand?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's U.S. person. So
Okay. So look, okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
I believe refugee status counts and things like that. This is
Okay.
not advice or anything like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, exactly.
We have lawyers
Yeah.
that cover us in this case that are very knowledgeable about this.
So I have to imagine, dealing with the space industry, all the different, agencies and stuff going on, has to be pretty complex. Like, how do you like work through all that stuff, so to speak?
With the government specifically.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we have consultants that we've worked with in the past and currently, Space Advisory Group, Black Haze Group, and others who help us navigate this a lot, have extensive experience either as prior contracting officers in the DoD. Some door knock, some don't. So our yeah, I was somewhat against SBIRs as like I do not want to be an SBIR shop. SBIRs do serve a really, really spectacular purpose in that they give you a vehicle that can be expanded upon to turn into either a program of record of phase 3 or something else. So we're adamant about submitting SBIRs initially, not even to necessarily win, but to get to that selectable unfunded stage, which a lot of people don't know about. So we were able to we submitted an SBIR direct to phase 2 after like 4 months of existing, which is sort of psychotic, but I wanted to get that selectable not funded status so that we could go then hunt for a customer internal to the DoD. Hunt's maybe the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Go look for a customer actively in the DoD. Generally not the most open and candid group in the world. So we found that customer, and we hit an inflection point pretty quickly in their understanding and what they needed, because or we hit them at an inflection point where they were like, we were just about to decide whether we should build this internally because nothing like it existed before, and then went through the process of converting that to a funded.
So from your point of view, and maybe you and your co-founders' point of views, how does Intergrate make it? Like, how do y'all become a successful company and meet all the goals y'all want?
Yeah, yeah. So follow where product market fit is initially, and a lot of that feels like it is in the government currently. But uh, I think a lot of people forget where where you are about a year and a half in, and they're like, you can't possibly run government and commercial at the same time. And like, what other option do we have? Like we can't if we run with government entirely and singularly, and that doesn't come through, we're dead. If we run commercial entirely and singularly, and that doesn't come through, we're dead. So we have no choice but to be responsible to our stakeholders and ourselves to run both processes. And yeah, it's gonna suck for a long time, but that's like embrace the suck is the entire name of the game in building a company. It's going to be painful, and you're not going to have the bandwidth ever. And there are glass balls and there are rubber balls, and as long as the rubber balls don't fall off, or the glass balls don't fall off the table,
That
you're
is the trick, right?
yeah,
The
exactly.
problem is most people don't realize the difference between glass and rubber.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so it's really making sure that we're running both processes as hard as we possibly can and listening to everybody. And yeah, it's going to suck for years, but
So
gotta do it.
what's going to have to happen for y'all to shut it down?
To shut it down,
Yeah.
I probably have to be dead.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are intelligent points to shut it down if, something catastrophic happens. I mean, like globally,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
but, but Andrew, Paul, and I have spoken about this. When it was rough fundraising, it's like we will find a way.
Yeah.
We have an application that is fully validated and um, that people want and need, and there are hurdles, logistic hurdles to either rip in place or inject our solution in with multitude of others they have. Um, but there's such high conviction that this is necessary and needed, whether it's DoD or commercial, that we would have to be. We're not going to be irresponsible to our employees, you know, um, and we're going to make sure they're taken care of. But yeah, for this sort of a catastrophic incident, or me, I don't want to will anything into
Yeah.
the world, but me not being around, uh,
Okay.
it would. Yeah, we're pretty in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who are some of your mentors?
Oh, oh my God. So many incredible people that I wonder if there are any that don't want me to call them out. But hung out with a lot this weekend that are just people that I love deeply and that have been friends for a long time and have called me on my bullshit when you know I because there's no shortage of it with me. A lot of people that have just hung in there through hard times that I would absolutely call mentors that I spent the weekend with. A lot of former bosses that I still look up to. Carissa, I already called out, and I look back to examples of work ethic and getting done what needs to be done. As she was starting BryceTech, Larry Helm, who I've worked for at BryceTech, as well. Dan Piedmont at ABL taught me an incredible amount of things, and shine the light on, um, not in a cruel or mean way whatsoever, but when I was screwing up, what to do to fix it. And I really respect people deeply that give me that feedback. Andrew, you know, Andrew, co-founder, Bobby Borshak, is our head of engineering. I look to for a lot of mentorship. My dad is a huge influence in my life, as well as my mom and my stepmom. There are a million people that I have to thank for so many things that I'm not entirely sure I want to be.
Yeah, no
So,
worries.
yeah.
And follow-up question, are you mentoring anyone yourself?
I don't know. I don't know if I made it that official, but there are a lot of young, really, really bright minds out there, either through Students for the Exploration and Development of Space or otherwise that I'm always open to helping out as much as possible and I talk to on a weekly basis. Yeah, so a lot of students and people that that I care about. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the whole
Formalization of
yeah
it, so to speak.
yeah, friends can't be coworkers
Yeah.
and coworkers can't be friends, and obviously there are lines you have to draw on things like this, um, but I think it hurts in the long run. And if you can't live with someone or trust someone deeply, then what the hell are you doing working with them? You know?
Yeah. So you talked earlier about, as a founder, you have to embrace the sex, so to speak.
Yeah.
But having said that, how do you take care of yourself, either physically, spiritually, mentally, or what do you want to call it? Like, how do you make sure you do that?
Yeah. First thing started about a year and a half ago. Stopped drinking entirely. Not going to any programs or anything. It's not that deep, but yeah, stopped drinking about a year and a half ago because realized that the buck stops with me, and every efficiency increase that I can make is helpful. So that was one big improvement to my energy and everything like that. Um, I walk just about every day. That's like my true superpower time is if I can get up and walk 30 minutes to 2 hours a day. That's where all my creativity comes out. That's where I really get my deep think, like what some people meditate, some people do yoga. I just and that changes my entire mentality. And then I lift
And
real heavy.
and you like walk the same route every day? You change the route up that you walk?
I try to change the route out or up, and I've fallen off for 2 or 3 months at a time sometimes, and that's when I get really stressed. I have a little bit of paid discipline with a personal trainer who gets me to lift heavy, dude Jeff Sokol, and that helps keep me sane. Like Bobby, or head of engineering, if I'm getting too intense some days is a nice way of putting it. He'll just be like, "Did you lift today, or did you go for a walk, or like go for a walk,
Yeah.
like get your head straight," and it really does completely change my entire outlook on life. I'm really trying to focus on sleep right now and figure out how to get as much of it as humanly possible with the time constraints, because it goes 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. summer most days. and
Yeah.
and but I'm approaching 40. I need to be able to I think most of us were dying at this point in the 20s, or earlier. So body's definitely starting to say, "Hey, take care of me." Yeah,
So what is it exactly your company does?
yeah. Um, that is a great question. We're building our tagline is building program management software for the world's most ambitious machines. Doesn't tell you much, but
So is it like a CRM?
well, it's more like like I would say we're more closely affiliated to like Microsoft Project, Jira, or
Okay.
something like this, except
Okay.
um, built on a multi-tenant architecture that allows seamless collaboration between external and internal stakeholders. So with most applications or enterprise applications that were built 20 years ago, before anybody knew what multi-tenant architecture was or got comfortable with it through social media, and the benefits of it. Um, we start where most enterprise software ends. So where you can sort of task people internally, and the majority of software built for software was great for internal teams. Hardware is implicitly and absolutely collaborative. You have subcontractors, you have contract manufacturing shops, you have people that you buy entire components and things, unless you're going to stand up your own silicon manufacturing, stand. You have designers and all of these different interactions on the supply chain end that you have to keep track of, and that make hardware builds inherently collaborative. But then on the other hand, you have to tell your customers about your progress, about you have to inject a lot of, or ingest rather, a lot of data from them on what needs to be built, because not every piece of hardware is going to serve every customer all the time. I mean, in consumer electronics, that's probably true. Robotics, space, and other things, you have some customization, or you have to know what loads are being imparted on a specific customer's piece of hardware, things like this. So I built the software that I wanted at every company that I've worked for, that allows you to build your entire source of truth, schedule requirements, tasking, deliverables, all of these things, and then parse down to the subtask level that source of truth out to other people that are on the platform. So You could have your 38,000 line design to production integrated master schedule in this application. And then you have a subcontractor out there that needs to see 3 subtasks that they're responsible for. And you can parse those out to them so they see them in their timeline view and none of the rest, which sounds simple or easy, but doesn't exist currently at all. And it makes everything 20 times easier. You know, we have a company that's managing 23 different customers on a single rocket, and they're outright just like, we would not be able to do this with Project or Jira because we could directly interact with our customers and parse out the deliverables that they need to see and ingest all of the data that they need to give us in this one place without them seeing each other.
Why do you think no one has built anything like this before? Just too hard to do, or just not enough incentive from the market or something?
It's not the sexiest thing in the world. You know, I think a lot of people go after big sexy problems that aren't for bean counters or for people that are planners and things like this. So and somebody said this recently, I think it was Scott, our head of sales, is like, our enemy's good enough. There's a lot of stuff out there that's sort of good enough, and will force, but then you see it firsthand, and you see all the people that are building these things and working with these good enough solutions, and you wonder, and people that don't see that are wondering why they've churned through 3 of the same position in a year, or why people quit after 2 years of having to just Spider-Man hold all just bullshit together.
I like that analogy. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
That's a very great analogy.
And
that needs to be a meme.
Yeah, and
holding this bullshit together.
Exactly. Yeah. And you get these Franken systems that start with small companies and then escalate into 3,000 person companies, and everybody's pissed off and frustrated with what they have. So we want to fix it.
So, have you been able to go to any like high level NASA meetings, high level government meetings about space stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
So have any of them admitted out loud the aliens are coming?
No. Nope. Not even a little bit. No.
Damn.
Yeah, it's I'm big on service to our country and defense and things like this. At the same time, I very strongly believe that if we had encountered anything, there's no way that we'd be able to keep it a secret at all.
Don't think so?
No.
I don't know if I agree with that, because like I'm just thinking, like if they seen some spaceships coming from outer space, like will they tell us?
It'd be the biggest event since, and I'm not.
I mean, if they're here right now, we know it, but I suppose they knew. Okay,
but if it would be the biggest event in the history of humanity, full stop, period.
And that's why I think they wouldn't tell us, because they'd be scared. They'd be rioting and looting everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think there would be a way to not tell us, and it would be too important. And there are a lot of things. There's a lot of crazy shit that goes on. And I'd love to believe that something like that exists. And I think, in the infinite, expanse of the universe and everything, is there life way out there? Probably.
Yeah.
Has it visited us?
Yeah. I
think it discredits too many people doing really cool shit.
I mean, just based on stats, all the galaxies James Webb telescope finds every day.
Exactly.
Has to be something out there. But then again, maybe they don't. This is my thing. Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, we want aliens to come." I don't want aliens to come.
Yeah.
Because odds are,
we're assholes.
Yeah.
We're
like, remember way back in the deck, the 1500s, the Spanish went to Peru and wiped out the Incas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my fear. They're gonna come here, like wipe us out, or use us for like slave labor, or like eat our brains out, or something like that. It's like,
yeah.
Do I think they're out there somewhere? I have to say yes, right?
Yeah,
out there
somewhere.
Do I want to come in here? I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly. And do I think they have?
Yeah,
hard no.
And then like you hear all these people talk about, like there's like all these sightings, like all this craft, like doing like spectacular stuff, right?
Yeah.
But people forget, like way back the day before the stealth bomber came out, there's all these reports.
Exactly.
And then there's a stealth bomber, right?
Exactly.
So I have to think, because all these sightings are like military bases, right?
Yeah.
To me, it has to be like some kind of physics breakthrough, engineering breakthrough no one knows about yet. They just test it out, right?
Yeah, and X-Files summed it up pretty well. I want to believe. There's a
Yeah.
lot of reason that people want to believe in something bigger,
Yeah.
and something out there. And I don't want to yuck that for anybody
Yeah.
whatsoever. But people have a lot of things that are made up that they believe in for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. There is,
Yeah,
a lot of things,
yeah, yeah,
I think it's a good conversation topic, right? Just like that, I won't say fantasize, but like what's
yeah,
out there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What if like Elon Musk goes on Mars?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
all these people there we don't know about.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Another thing too, like we talk about intelligent life, we think like maybe like movie based aliens or human.
yeah.
It might be like
Bacteria. I
bacteria.
would be stoked
Yeah,
if we found bacteria, and if we found an amoeba or
yeah,
anything.
and
I
like
would
and it
be
reads our minds or
over
something.
the moon. Oh yeah, I mean, that'd be cool. Also, are you a horror movie?
Not really.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no.
The I'm a huge horror movie buff, and The Blob is one of my
Okay,
favorite
okay.
movies
Yeah,
of all time. Uh, 80s or 50s version, and um, and yeah, I mean, it'd be super cool. Do I think we're close to it? Not really. Yeah,
yeah. I don't either. Another
yeah.
thing, isn't it true that we know more about space than the oceans?
So we know more about the surface of the moon
The moon.
than the bottom of the ocean,
Okay.
and that is largely because of that lunar reconnaissance orbiter
Mm.
that it was talking about. That all the images are processed
Yeah.
through Arizona State University. I'm sure somebody's going to be like, "You're not right about that," but
Yeah.
that's as far as I know. So we've imaged pretty much every inch of the moon,
Okay.
and oceans are much more difficult to do. So that's where
There's like
that's
what's the go? It's not called water pressure, but some kind of pressure.
yeah.
You go down too
Oh
deep,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
plus like you go too deep. There's no sun. There's like
Yeah, exactly. It's no solar, no, unless you're that's why with nuclear submarines, I think. And yeah, the pressure is pretty spectacular. Unfortunately we've had a few
yeah.
tragedies based around that recently. Or I think the anniversary was a few days ago, but
Mhm. When those
yeah,
billionaires went down there.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's tough. Yeah.
So what's some stuff that excites you about space coming up? Either
Uh
space tech or space tech or anything with space. Like
Yeah, I'm excited about the competition in uh, telecommunications. I keep beating that drum, but I fully believe that the more accessible, as awful as the internet can be, the more accessible it is for people in economically disenfranchised countries. Um, the more we can lift people out. There are countless examples of when cell phones became prolific in the coasts of some of these disenfranchised continents or countries. That fishing trade increased exponentially because they were able to say, okay, we caught all this excess of fish, and as opposed to it going to waste because they didn't know who was out there or what the market was, being able to text next town over or something like this and say, hey, we've got a whole excess. Do you want us to try it for you? All these things. And I think we're just going to see an explosion of that with Kuiper coming online, Starlink doing its thing. So that's what I'm most excited about, and seeing it actually come to fruition.
so our family live in Texas. They live on a ranch like in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
They have Starlink. They're
Yeah.
like, this is the best thing ever.
Oh yeah.
They're like
Absolutely.
Comcast, all those things they can't compete. Like
Yeah.
when Starlink gets out there, no one's gonna use anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. There are a lot of heavy, we think of people on farms and things like this that don't have access, and we're like, okay, great. But there are 4 billion people without internet. That's why
Yeah.
I joined Astranis when I did, is to help solve that problem. And there are a lot of, probably not probably isn't the right place to talk about it, but there are a lot of deep, dark things in the human condition when people are isolated
Yeah.
that can happen that we don't think about because it's out of sight, out of mind. But the ability to Google, should this be happening even, is really powerful. Um, or how do I get out of a specific situation? And I don't mean to bring down
Yeah.
the the
No,
vibes or
no, no,
anything, but
no.
there's some deep dark shit out there that happens, that I think having access to the internet, being able to shine a light on it, or being able to call for help or speak to someone or something like this is wildly important, and so that really does it for me.
So of course AI is a big thing now. AI robots. I think all these videos like robots doing like janitorial work,
Yeah,
basic things.
yeah.
Do you think the time's gonna come when AI's robots gonna be flying like space stations or ships to outer space?
Yeah, there are a bunch of mission operations, for mission operations is the concept of controlling spacecraft on orbit. Um, and I think AI is already affecting some of that. There's a company with a few members. Sorry,
No worries.
there's
He's fine.
a company with a few members, at least in the Seattle area. I think called Cognitive Space. I might be messing that up. That's using AI to for so that satellites don't hit each other, and to help them detect collisions earlier and things like this. So I think we're already seeing a little bit of that, and we'll see more and more of it. But they are such critical applications that just giving it completely over to AI is probably going to be a tough sell for the next 5 years, maybe. But it's happening. It's pretty cool.
So obviously, you know, we're in space, Russia, China, I think India, Japan. What's the country out there that's not in space yet that's like trying to get to space?
Yeah, so India is one of my favorites right now that is in space. They have a very active space program, but it's taken a little bit for granted. But they had a mission to the moon recently that cost under 130 million, where they launched their own mission to the moon, which, or I think it's about 100 under 150 million or something. Like most blockbusters cost more than this mission to the moon. And I just think that's so cool. And they've just done a lot of really cool space things in space. So a country to watch for the space industry, I think, is India for sure.
And you probably don't know this, but like, is there like treaties in space that says, you know, first country on Mars gets to claim all of Mars, or like,
Yep,
you know,
the opposite. So Outer Space Treaty of 19, some space historians gonna get on my ass about that, but Outer Space Treaty essentially says the opposite. It's like it's not first come first served for all of planets or moon or anything like this. I think there's something in there about what you get. Yeah, I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but yeah, Outer Space Treaty exists, and there's a lot of activity around modifying it or making sure um, that it's not just a situation of, hey, we got here first, so now this is
okay.
our moon. Yeah,
I mean, that's the ones like United States. We get Mars, Russia, you get Mercury, China, you get Venus, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
Germany, you get Pluto.
Yeah, exactly. Just divvying. Yeah,
uh,
we've seen that happen before.
Mexico, you get this random asteroid 10
Yeah,
million miles
yeah,
away.
yeah, 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 yeah. Something. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is my opinion. It's probably not true. Like a lot of people, like they'll say, like reason Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, what's that guy, Robert Branson, other guys that go into space because like they want someone who has the biggest dick, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's more they're doing it so they can go to asteroids and mine minerals.
Yeah, yeah. So that was so there was a local company from started, I want to say 15 years ago, called Planetary Resources Corporation. It's sort of part of the history and fabric of the space industry in Seattle. Chris Lewick, he still lives up here, and he's been incredible. He's a CDL mentor, and I've just known him through SEDS for a long time. So there are a lot of people that are interested in doing that. I think it's one of the Astro companies out there that I'm blanking on, is working on that as well. Um, I think um, I think there is some semblance of an ambitious aspect to it, so maybe not a measuring contest, but some just outright ambition. I think there is some actual thought that, holy shit, things are going south. We need to get the hell off of this planet to make sure that humanity continues to exist. And I think I was speaking to my dear friend Adrian, that there are, I don't know if extremophile is like a type. organism that lives in extreme environments, but they're types of people that just need to see where the limit is. And I think a lot of those are founder types. And then, some go into drugs and try to get to the most extreme end of the spectrum on that. Some people build companies and want to see how far they can go, period. And I think it can be an extension or expansion of that need to go as far as humanly possible. Um, yeah, so it wouldn't necessarily. There's a lot of brinksmanship and a lot of theater to the people that are that are doing it right now. But I think if I had to guess, it would probably be more of that innate need to explore and need to push the boundaries.
Because it is in our DNA, right, to explore, like
Yeah,
learn new things,
absolutely. Yeah,
like what's over the horizon.
exactly. I mean, what am I reading right now? I just started um, Shackleton, the Endurance, I think is the book, and it's been around for hundred thousands of years. People travel, people
Yeah.
explore, people go to seek out, what's out there, not just knowing
Yeah.
that it exists and then going for that, because how would we know anything exists if we did not? So
Here's a scenario for you. Totally made up. Hope, pray, don't knock on a plastic table. This never happens. What if it got out that all the nuclear countries put their weapons in outer space and pointed their weapons in outer space, right?
yeah,
Like people think, what the fuck is coming, right?
yeah.
Like, why are you doing this for?
What do you mean?
Like, it's no, right now, we're like nuclear weapons pointing each country, like Russia's at us, United
Yeah,
States at us,
yeah.
India, Pakistan, vice versa. All the countries put their weapons in space and pointed out of space,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
like something's coming to attack us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, shit.
Yeah, I think people shoot their pants.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah,
like tell us more. What's
yeah,
going
yeah,
on?
yeah, yeah,
And the government, I think they'd be like, "Oh, we're just cooperating now.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't believe you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What's coming? Tell us."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what advice you have for entrepreneurs at any stage, like new entrepreneurs, some your stage, like just entrepreneur in general? What advice you have for them?
Get a dog. That's mine's sleeping under the table right now. Thanks for letting me bring him. But choice of partner matters. I'm super lucky to have one of the most supportive human beings in the world. That when I was working at ABL and I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna, do the damn thing finally. First of all, I think they were at the point of like, shit, or get off the pot. I've been hearing you talk about this for so long. I want to see you do this. But when I went to him, I was just like, hey, this is gonna be rough for a while. I'm making good money right now, and we live a great lifestyle, and we're able to travel and all these things. But that will not be the case for 3 to 5 years. If I start this company, and they were like, "Sounds like another adventure." Let's do it. So I have a lot of faith that choosing the right partner, and there are a million anecdotes out there. Um, and so I give a lot of thanks to Annalie, my fiance, soon to be wife. But just partner overall. And also get a dog. I mean, the fundraising is not easy, and it makes a lot of difference to have this little beefcake to go hug and sit with and unconditionally love you when it seems like nobody else does. Yeah,
So can y'all talk some points about like letting the people around like maybe your close friends and stuff? Because like before you start a company, yeah, I could go with you, hang out Friday night, go to the baseball game. I can
yeah,
do some stuff.
yeah,
A lot of social stuff has to stop, right? And you have to kind of tell your friends, hey, I'm still your guy.
yeah,
I'm still with you. However,
yeah, yeah. I think the good thing about being an outright workaholic, for as long as I was that sort of got weeded out early on, and definitely found that something that I care deeply about in people is their work ethic and their amount of get shit done. So, um, a lot of the people that I surround myself with understand that innately, but I also don't think that you should give all that shit up as much. I think one of the best things that happened to me is I burnt myself out at so many other startups so quickly and so easily that I started to recognize the signs and recognize um, what work life harmony actually means. And so, first and foremost, take care of yourself, your physical being, um, and make sure that you're around and have the energy to sustain this. And the second, make sure you're actually fulfilled. And not all of that comes from work all the time. And I've watched people break themselves a million times. I do think that Sam Altman's first of all, burnout does exist outright. But I also think that Sam Altman's quote about how you just have to get up and decide to do the thing every day
Yeah,
is
very
true.
true. Very
And
true.
I mean, I've burnt out hardcore. I mean, on when I was fundraising, I was in lots of pain and lots of hurt while I was fundraising, and every single day, it just had to be when I got to the end of the day, and not to, woe is me. I'm starting a company. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
by any means, but sometimes you're crying yourself to sleep. Sometimes you're looking, staring up
Yeah.
at the ceiling and saying, "What the am I doing? Why am I doing this?" And then it takes a reminder from somebody, and Carissa was this person for me, that I chose to do this.
Yeah.
I could hopefully go get a job, and I'm not, uh, uh, um, but I'm choosing to do this, and it goes back to all the man in the arena,
Oh,
the
yeah.
person in the arena thing. Um, but yeah, I think you need to keep a little bit of that love in your life, and it's sort of like somebody putting too much on their partner and asking their partner to be every single thing to them at every stage of your life. You can't do that. You got to have friends. You got to have friends that love you in a different way and that you love in a different way. You can't put so much into one thing that it just completely destroys your entire life around you. Is that
It makes sense.
yeah,
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
Yeah. Kind of off subject, but like, I read a meme earlier today where it said like these CEOs make all this money, right? We can afford to pay people $20 an hour. I always thought like, I'll probably get blasted for this. I always thought it was bullshit, right? Like CEOs get paid a lot of money because all the shit they go through, right?
it,
Like,
it,
don't get me wrong. If you work for a company, you should pay them what they're worth, right?
yeah,
But should it be like the same amount as a CEO? Like, no, I
yeah,
don't think so, right? It's like, because all the stuff CEOs have to do, building the company, fundraising.
yeah,
Like example, my family in Texas, right? They own a company, right? And I was there visiting one time, and they had a barbecue. Friends came over. One of the friends actually worked for the company,
yeah,
and she told my cousin, like, "Why are you doing all this work now? Because if I don't close this contract, I have to lay off 10 people next week,
yep,
and you're one of them."
yeah, yeah,
So you're
yeah.
like, "Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
get back
yeah,
to work then,"
yeah, 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 yeah. That's just like anything. It's heavily nuanced, and I think um, the the thing that people don't know. One of my friends, Eric, put out a really great post about this. Like 4 years after he started a company, it was like, I finally just paid off my last credit card from starting this fucking company.
Yeah,
It was like I was getting paid minimum wage or I was paying myself minimum wage. And it really comes down to risk.
yeah,
It's like how much, we could go into a million arguments all day about what people get paid and
yeah,
anecdotes and all these things. But a lot of it comes down to risk,
yeah,
is how much risk is a single person taking, and um, would the next person in line take that amount of risk?
yeah,
Would the person six places
yeah,
away in line take that amount of risk? And if the answer is no, how is this going to get done?
yeah,
Because the amount of risk that people have to take in their personal lives and their professional lives, that opens them up to every type of lawsuit, every
yeah.
type of you say the wrong thing offhand accidentally, that's interpreted by the wrong person,
Yeah.
you get sued. Um,
And
it's
you're all over social media because you said something wrong
Yeah,
or
yeah, and it's risk. Risk exists everywhere and is top of mind constantly in your personal and professional life. And so whether one person should get paid however much, or somebody should get paid another, there are too many facets
yeah,
overall, and I'm not just trying to cop out, because I think there are a lot of really spectacular
yeah,
arguments on a lot of different sides. But I would say, ask yourself how much risk you're willing to take, because I think pay can sometimes be commensurate to the amount of risk that you're
yeah,
willing to take. If you're willing to put your life, your livelihood, your mortgage, your cats, your dogs, your partners on the line for to make a company work, fuck yeah, you should be getting paid out the wazoo. Um, if if your loyalty to a company is paycheck to paycheck, you don't even have to be loyal to a company.
Yeah.
It's a job,
Yeah.
make a living, do your best. I would just put it in the context of risk. Like, how much
Yeah.
risk are you actually willing to take? Because it's hard.
Now, I will say, if you're a CEO of a company, your company lost $100 million, you probably shouldn't be getting a 50% increase in your pay.
Couldn't. Yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean, I don't know what the circumstances are.
you see happen on the news all the time.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
company lost X amount of value.
yeah.
CEO and senior staff get 25% increase.
Or layoffs, and then then bosses get.
Yeah.
It's
Now
just like,
that's to me, that's bullshit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't know all the nuances of that, but you can smell bullshit when you see it
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
So I don't know if you're hiring right now, but when you hire people, like, what kind of characteristics you look for? Like, how would someone like approach y'all besides like apply on the website? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
how does like someone say, "Hey, I'm Jason Cabinets, hire me"?
yeah, yeah. That is pretty strong indicator of what people are. I had one person reach out, said, "I love what you're doing. I'm a student, blah 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 blah. Would love to meet." And I was like, "Hell yeah, I love that. We don't have anything now, but I'm more than happy to meet." And then they didn't show up and asked for a reschedule, and I was like, "Okay, well that's a hard no."
Yeah, that's enough.
Or being late or
That's
anything like
enough.
this. Yeah. But there's um I think getting out there and networking and warm introductions at this stage are mean a whole lot because it matters. But I also think there's always a risk of just hiring in your circle or just the people you know. Uh, yeah, so I think get out there, ask people for time.
Yeah, what's the saying? Just because y'all drink the same beer or same bourbon doesn't mean he'll be your best marketing person.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything I asked you that I should have asked you, or anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, not that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next, you already talked about your company some, like you'll go in more detail about how you started the company,
Yeah.
what you focus on now, like what your big dream vision is for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So started the company because I was that figure that was trying to hold together the two sides of supply chain, to business development, and there's a lot of pass through and flow through of what the hell's going on in supply chain, what delays are causing a specific delay for a satellite or a rocket or something like this that then needs to be communicated to the customer. But you have 16 different systems that things are tracked in, so you can't get clear insight into what you need to know either at a top level or closer to the actual build. And so we built the software that I wanted at every single company that I've worked for, or and largely that came down to communication, the ability to, like I said, break down that fourth wall of enterprise software and allow people to naturally communicate their source of truth. So you don't have to build multiple sources of truth, because what the hell is multiple sources of truth mean? There's one. And how do you parse that out to external stakeholders? And so we set out to build that and largely have, I believe. And our customers are reaping the benefits of it. So pretty happy. Just need to get some more on.
And what's your vision for the future?
Yeah. So we're really heads down on complex hardware right now, but we want to be synonymous with com- build of hardware within the next 3 to 5 years. Period.
So totally random question, but like, how do y'all go about picking your tech stack?
Yeah, largely that was influenced by our chief architect and co-founder Paul Reisman, who had used Go at a previous company and really loved the speed and efficiency of the language for the back end, and then most ubiquitous front end for development purposes. And he's hiring as well. He singularly chose our tech stack until we brought in other senior engineers who were like, okay, there are some parts, some libraries, and some things that we do have to remove because they're not serving us in the way that we need to. But it largely, those decisions come around addressing tech debt and making sure that we're as scalable as humanly possible.
If you're coming, you have people all across the United States, right?
Yeah, one in Texas, a few in Arizona, some in California, and then about half up here.
So the people in Seattle, they is it remote too? They go in the office once a week,
Yeah,
or
we have an office over in Ballard.
okay,
Pretty strong feeling that, at this level of the company and this few people being in person
yeah,
really matters, and
okay.
knowing that you trust the person that you're working
So how do you deal with like you have your in person team here in Seattle, people work remotely in other places. How do you deal like no like fairness and all that kind of stuff, right?
with. Yeah,
Like of course it'd be kind of dumb if someone said, "Hey, why have to come to office every day in Seattle? The person in the Bay Area don't have to come in,"
yeah,
or the person in the Bay Area don't have to be in front of the computer.
yeah,
Like how do you work through those things?
yeah. It's been a little bit of a struggle and learning curve. At the same time, we started during the latter parts of COVID, and so everybody was pretty used to remote. And then Andrew put in a lot of really spectacular practices, as he had always worked with remote teams with his design agency. And so utilizing things like Loom, or making a hard and fast rule of pick up the phone when things get pissy or contentious or frustrating, just pick up the phone, because it's really easy to misinterpret things via text. I'm probably guiltiest of it in the company, because I'd slam something out and like, "Hey, not working," and then it causes a frenzy, and I'm like, "Nope, I didn't. It wasn't. God damn it," So, and then Kelly did a good job of saying, if you don't want people to think you're pissed off, hop on a huddle. They can hear your tone,
Yeah,
and it's way easier. And it's like, yep, totally true. So putting things in place like that, like if you start to get heated or hot about something, you know, give it a beat, pick up the phone. You'll be able to hear people's tone, make sure, and then prioritizing certain people over other people is just kind of bullshit. If you don't, if somebody doesn't belong at the company for one reason or another, don't have them at the company.
yeah,
And then it always goes back to no assholes. I know everybody says that.
mhm.
I interviewed for one company where they were like, "We have a strict no assholes rule," and then one of the leaders was like, "Except for me, I'm the only one they let in." And I'm like, "So you don't have a strict no
Yeah,
assholes rule?"
yeah,
Got it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Let's talk about your dog real fast, if
Oh
you
yeah,
can.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so you had him for like 2 years, you said?
Yeah, I had him about 2 years. We got him the day after Christmas, 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why English Bulldog versus all the other numerous dog breeds?
Pretty sure we're the exact same thing, creature. He's short, stocky, uh, 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 moody and stubborn,
Yeah,
but the biggest love bug in the world,
yeah, nice.
and I grew up with boxers my
Okay,
entire life, so I always loved the
uh-huh,
smoosh faces.
okay,
And um, yeah, every bulldog that I've met has been one of the sweetest animals
mhm,
that I've ever known. Um, and so I've always wanted one. My brother, when he was alive, used to joke with my dad, who's looks like, when I went to Ireland uh, um, a trip one time, I was like, "Dad, everybody here looks like you, exactly." And gray hair and all this, and my brother Mike, again, when he was alive, would always joke, "Whenever you go, Dad, we're just gonna put a Giants jersey on an English bulldog, sit him in front of the TV."
So different, it's funny.
Yeah. And so there's probably a little bit of that, and,
Mm,
missing my brother, and
yeah,
thinking of how much he wanted an English bulldog and all that, as well. But yeah, once I saw this little man, I
like love
just,
on first sight, as
oh
they say.
God, yeah, it was funny. We called December 26th, 2021, Walter Matthau Day, for like 3 months, because I've been trying to find someone. My partner Donnelly had moved in, and I traveled 80% of the time for previous jobs, so sure as shit wasn't getting the dog then. But then Donnelly moved in, and we realized that this was a good thing, and that we
Uh-huh.
were going to continue. And so I was like, "Can we please get a dog?" And they were a little hesitant, uh, but I kept calling December 26th, Walter Matthau Day, because that's when we were going to drive down to Roy, Washington, to see this guy.
Mhm,
And I was like, "We don't, you know, we don't have to dedicate to getting him. We're not gonna, buy him on spot if he has a shitty personality, anything
yeah,
like this. Like, don't worry about it." but he was a year old when we got him. And we woke up and I was like, it's Walter Matthau Day. And Donnelly was like, you look out the window and it snowed 6 inches. And I was like, and so we got a pickup truck and rented one from U-Haul in whiteout conditions, and it took us 4.5 hours for an hour-and-a-half drive down to Roy, Washington.
Damn.
And we finally got there, and it was out.
Yeah, I know where Roy is.
Yeah, like this house particularly was even outside of Roy.
Yeah, it's country.
Yeah. And we got there, and this little bastard just ran out and was flipping out, and I was like, I love him so much, and picked him up. And
like you're a little boy yourself again, huh?
Oh, 100%, absolutely. And we took him home, and he just cuddled up right on my lap the entire drive home. I don't think he'd been in a car since he was, like just born.
Yeah.
And so he was scared, but yeah, he's taught me definition of unconditional love.
Yeah, dogs are the best.
Yeah.
So you stopped drinking a year and a half ago?
I stopped drinking a year and a half
Was
ago.
that just like personal reasons, health reasons?
Yeah, I just it was a great hobby for 20 years of my life, and loved it, and have a lot of Irish in my blood. But got to a point where it wasn't serving me, and it's got to realize when something's taking more out of you than you're taking out of it. And
I guess the day came where, like back in the day, you could probably drink a bottle of bourbon, case of beer, wake up the next day, do whatever.
Zippity doo dah.
Now, if you see a beer, alcohol, you got to take the next day off.
Oh yeah. Getting closer to 40, that I'd have a beer one night and feel it for the next 3 days, and I was like, screw this is awful, and realized that I wanted to give as much as humanly possible to my partner and my company, and all of that, and it was just the best decision for me. And my doc was like, is this going to be a problem? I was like, nope. He was like, okay, then I'd suggest stopping for weight and all this. And I was like, okay, and so stopped.
So did you stop drinking before or after you went to Ireland?
Oh, after. I was in Ireland when I was like 26.
Oh, so it was a while ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So
had an absolute blast.
So you did the pub tour, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I loved it. Had an absolute blast. Went to Jameson Distillery. My dad actually came out and out there to visit while I was out there, because it was there for like an exchange program sort of thing. The Guinness tour was spectacular. The Jameson Distillery was so cool. Like all of that, and all of I always got ridiculed for wanting to go to the old man pubs, because I loved just going in and exploring really great whiskey and all those things. And all the people that I was with were a little bit younger, and they were like, we want to go to clubs and dancing, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll see you later. I want to
I want to drink some real whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
And the weather there is it like gloomy and doomy like here in Seattle? I've always heard like it's kind of like always wet, and like gray, like no sun, so to speak.
Yeah, but when the days are beautiful, they're absolutely stunning, just like Seattle.
Yeah, I've heard like when the green is really green over there.
Yeah,
and it's called the Emerald Isle for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I never put the 2 and 2 together why I love Seattle so much. The Emerald City and
man, I didn't think about that either. Yeah, Emeralds, you're right.
Yeah.
I had no freaking clue.
Yeah.
Man. All right. So I'm asking you one more time. Anything else you want to talk about, or anything I didn't ask you?
No, I'm curious about your service a little bit more. You said 25 years. I realized you're a vet, of course.
Yeah. So I did 25 years. I did 8 enlisted. Then I went to OCS, kind of officer.
Cool.
Like was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, Italy, Germany twice, Korea 3 years, Afghanistan twice. It was a good standard. You could like standard living. One thing about the military, people don't realize, like everyone thinks about the sacrifice, deploying, going to war. Well, they don't realize is this like growing up, my kids, the grandparents, aunts, uncles never saw anything they did in school.
Yeah.
None of me, my wife didn't see anything our nieces and nephews did in school, right?
Yeah.
Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving, we're never with our family,
Yep.
And so these families build this type bonds where you're like all over someplace else, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Like funny story, one time I was stationed in Italy, and we came back 2 weeks on vacation, right? And so my wife's brother lives in Grand Prairie, Texas, by Dallas. So we went there, and he threw us big party for us, right?
Yeah.
And this lady was there, and he said, like, I don't understand what's the big deal. They just live in Italy.
Yeah.
You thought we would come from Italy, Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's those always things that pit you to mind, like what happened all the time. We go back to visit like family, and like you go to Dallas, right? And a relative will be like 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Hey, come see me 30 minutes away. Like, what?
No.
We flew like 20,000 million miles.
Yeah.
You can't fucking drive 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We won't be seeing you, right?
That's
like, how fucking selfless are you?
I'm pretty hard up on that rule. It's like if I flew across the country and I said I'm going to be here at this time, come see me.
Yeah.
Come see me. I'm not
Yeah.
going to drive another 45 minutes.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So those kind of things, yeah. But people don't they sacrifice that they do in the military. And then
Yeah.
like people don't realize military spouses have the highest unemployment demographic. You know, things like unemployment is like 20%, unemployment is like 40%, you know. Like most military spouses have master's degrees, but
Yeah.
no one wants to hire them because I'm not gonna hire you, Susan Homemaker, because you've been gone in 2 years.
To go, to leave.
But like, so you rather hire some dead person
Yeah, exactly.
instead of a superstar?
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter how long they're there, as long as they're kicking ass and
Yeah.
taking names. And military spouses, men or women, know, again, risk and sacrifice.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of people in the world, and they've had to contend with it and deal with it. And
But most military spouses are single parents.
yeah, absolutely.
Like me,
Yeah.
I missed my son's first 4 birthdays.
Yeah.
I think there's a time period, like for 5 years, I was only home maybe a year and a half, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
and they don't see that shit.
Yep. Nope. Nobody does.
They see the parades, the, the
Yeah.
Veteran Day stuff.
Yeah. Or, see just DOD and war and
Yeah.
think everybody that's involved with it is evil, and it's like,
They think we have PTSD, just want to fucking kill everyone.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, nope, there's a lot more complexity and nuance to literally everything, that people just haven't had to contend with, when they, when you deal with war, or even people coming back from war.
Yeah.
You understand the risk and the pain and
Yeah.
everything that is involved in it. That people aren't doing this because they want to go out, or most people aren't.
Yeah.
Aren't doing it. They're obviously fucked up assholes all
Yeah.
over the world. Doing it to either make ends meet, or because
Yeah.
they truly believe in the ideal that um,
Yeah. And I take it a step further. Like, we was a war in Iraq and Afghanistan, United States is at war with Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
No, it was the Department of Defense at war.
yeah, exactly.
Like, it wasn't the State Department, Agriculture.
Yeah.
Most Americans are like the Department of Defense.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And it's hard for people to separate or understand the nuance unless they've actually been in those specific situations.
Yeah. It was a good experience for the most part.
Yeah.
Of course, every job you have some asshole people. Some
Exactly. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
the best decision I've ever made, and if I had to trade that for some other thing that I've done,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't. I mean, I was a different person in a lot of good ways. I was hanging out with one of my closest friends for a long time at Ames, and we just happened to be hanging out with like 6 or 7 veterans
Yeah.
that were all in the space industry, and one of them was like, she showed a picture of us going to prom together. And I had my like scene kid hair and all this stuff, and the thing going into the military, I was like, I'm not going to go in, it's going to suck my soul, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to be,
Yeah.
come out completely changed. I absolutely came out completely changed, but what Ames said was like, nope, he's the exact same person, just with a little bit more discipline and a little
Yeah.
bit more go get him. And yeah, I think a lot of people are scared of that aspect, that it's going to fundamentally change who they are
Yeah.
and how they are. And it's like, first of all, nobody can change who you are
No.
unless you
Yeah.
you allow them to.
Exactly.
And second, it changed my entire life.
Yeah. And maybe you do change. Maybe they'll change you from the fake person you are to the real person you actually
Yeah,
are.
exactly. Yeah, because you get the shit beat out of you for sure. And
Yeah. Not a pleasant experience. Like basic training, OCS. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it, but damn.
yeah, and I was Air Force, so I understand all the jokes that go
Yeah.
along with that. But
What's the PT test? Where's my remote control at?
yeah.
I'm doing my PT test online.
Exactly. It's like not what crayons you're eating, but
Yeah.
how many for the
Exactly.
army,
Yeah.
exactly.
I remember a time where I was stationed in Germany, and this Air Force people came to stay on base to do this exercise.
Yeah.
They were there for one day, and they moved to our base because
Yeah. Oh yeah.
facilities were like way below
Oh
standard.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they got to move our base, got rental cars, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how much shit is this? We live here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're in the army, we're not.
Yeah. 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 Yep. Yeah. And then they did the whole Army Air Force
Yeah,
combined or joint
joint
bases.
base. Yeah,
Yeah. While I was up at Elmendorf in Alaska,
Mhm.
they did the J Bear change.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I heard all that from the Army side of the house. They were like, "This is a mile away. What the hell?" You know?
yeah. I know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good life though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not for everyone, you know.
Yeah.
One thing I often think to myself, like, should we bring back the draft, right? Because I'm a big believer, like in Korea, every male has to serve like 1 year, 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
I see goodness in that, then I don't, right? You know,
Yeah.
or maybe me at the military, maybe do something
Civil
right,
service. Yeah. Like
something
that's
like
the something bigger than yourself
yeah.
that takes you out of.
And like, if you live in like Tacoma, Washington, you have to go to like Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
You need to go somewhere else, right?
Yep.
Like too many people, like oh, um, I live in Dallas. I'm going to Fort Worth for the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not traveling,
No,
right?
no, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like go meet someone different, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah, it definitely gives you perspective. Um, and I don't think people understand the diversity that actually exists in
Oh, they
the
don't.
Air Force. And like
Oh, they don't.
you
Yeah.
can't like the one of my favorite things about it is watching assholes try to survive
Yeah.
in the Air Force, and
They
just
live in
like
the Army
somebody
too.
comes in with some opinion of somebody else that's racist or
Mhm.
sexist or anything, and then they just get their asses handed to them.
They do.
Yeah, and it's
And of
great.
course, a lot of people in the military have like the what's the name? Gomo Powell mentality, right?
Yeah,
Like, oh, like in my experience, anyone who is like try to be like a like a do as I say leader,
yeah,
they quickly failed, right?
100%.
They quickly failed,
Yeah,
right? Now, don't
yeah,
get me wrong, in the military, any job there's time where like the boss,
yeah,
okay, here's the decision, right? I took your input,
yeah,
but everyone I knew in the army would like do it my way. I don't care what you think,
yeah,
they quickly failed either
yeah,
because their boss saw they were a fucked up leader, or because the soldiers fucking just shut down on them, right?
yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, and there are a lot of I was never deployed. I always feel the need to say, but um, there there's a reason the soldiers will shut down
yeah,
on a boss
mhm,
that's going to take them into shit, and you have to trust
yeah,
in those situations. You don't want to deploy with somebody that's a do as I say, not as I do, or anything like this.
yeah.
You got to be able to trust.
And you got to read the room too. 'Cause, like when I was still on this, I was station forward. I was doing HR. I was the E4, and there's a thing called National Training Center you go to once in a while, right? At
Yeah,
Mojave Desert. We had been like 3 times in 5 months, 4 times in 6 months. Most people go like one every 3 years, right?
yeah, yeah,
We were able to support. So our colonel, jackass colonel, every time someone forward went, he'd volunteer us to go support him, right?
yeah,
And so we've been like 3 or 4 times, right? And so of course all the leadership changed out. New leadership came, and all the officers came, right?
yeah,
These jackasses were like set up tents. They put out fucking stopwatches to time us to see how fast we could do it. Like we're like, think of something, motherfucker.
yeah.
We've done this like 4 times in 6 months,
Exactly.
over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
know how to set up a tent
yeah,
pretty fucking fast.
yeah, yeah,
Matter
yeah,
of fact, we know how to do it like tear gas, full weapons.
yeah, yeah,
But when
yeah,
they put out that fucking stopwatch and timed it and said, we're gonna say we did like a minute, 20 seconds.
yeah,
I'm making up.
yeah,
We
yeah,
got this down to a minute. We just looked at each other like, we're done.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we're done.
Yeah,
Fuck
exactly.
y'all.
You
We shut down.
very clearly do not understand what we're here to do, and this
Yeah.
is not it.
And
Yeah,
we've done this over and over again. We
yeah,
shut down. Like
yeah. Discipline and
the next time, I think we did like 5 minutes.
yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. Discipline's one thing, but if you're gonna, yeah, yeah, that's you're there because you have it, not at that
Yeah.
point. Not because you need it. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of veterans out there. I think what they say 100% has been veterans. A lot of War II generations going away.
yeah,
And one thing I tell people, I'll probably get slack for this too. Like people will say, like, a lot of veterans will say, I'm only gonna hire veterans.
yeah, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
No.
my experience, I worked with, or people work for me. Like I would not hire to cut my grass, right?
What? Say it
I would
again.
not hire to cut my grass, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
just because a vet don't meet your hiring rate, they still
Yeah,
have to do the whole process. I
yeah,
think, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Maybe
because
give them advantage or something, right? Or
yeah, 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 yeah. And like, I mean, um, yeah, everybody's different. Like, no matter, it's always what you take out of an experience and what you put in. And if you didn't put in the work, or you just did it just to flail around,
yeah,
then you're going to be as much of a
And one
shitbag as
thing
you were going in.
I think a lot of veterans have a challenge getting out because in the military, like, of course, there's some go getters, all the kind of stuff. But of course, a lot of veterans, like, they're used to, okay, I have to be here this time.
Yeah.
The government's going to move me. They do everything for them.
Yeah.
And so when they get out, they're like, oh shit, where's my support group? Like,
Yep.
no, you are the support group.
Yeah.
You have to do it right. You have to pay your bills. You have to do this right.
Yep. Exactly.
I think a lot of people have a challenge for that.
Yeah. That's a lot of allegories to hiring big company people in a small company.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, where's all my support? It's like, this is it, man.
Yeah.
You got to do it. Yeah, you're yours board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't pay attention during transition?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Nope. Well, it's the real world now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Any advice for well, first of all, can you share your social media links for yourself and your company?
Oh, yeah. So at Intergrate _co for X.com. And then you can find us on LinkedIn and X, Twitter, and then at Conafay for hot takes in the space industry and tech. And yeah, and then Intergrate.co. We seem to have a very polarizing brand and website. So come tell us what you think about it, or sign up for a trial, or reach out to us if you're building complex hardware and you need a different way. We would like to think a better way of doing it, but if you need a different way of building it.
And y'all, if I remember correctly, y'all have a blog on your website, right?
We do not.
You don't?
Yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a lot of great things to look at, and all of our features and the ability to sign up on the website for sure.
I'm guessing y'all don't really do social media that much, do y'all? Like, do y'all like post videos on TikTok or Instagram or saying we're building a company or anything like that?
No, not yet. It's been bandwidth limited for right this second.
Okay.
But yeah, we're getting a little bit more.
And is there like a quote unquote dream customer out there, like maybe you can't get right now because you're not ready for it, but like a customer you want to target in the future?
Yeah. There are a million in the space industry that we're talking to. I also think Anduril is one of the coolest companies out there. If we're able to land them, that'd be huge. And I think we have a perfect use case because they're running so many programs, and we really are program management, most of project management. And there's a difference. A lot of people think the program management is the difference between a chihuahua, or project and program management is the difference between a chihuahua and a wolf, but it's more like a chihuahua and a pack of wolves and the chaos that can ensue at the program level.
Is the goal like eventually IPO, or you want to go the car right? Like, suppose Elon Musk or someone came along, like, here's $250 billion for your company.
Oh yeah, I'll take that deal for sure. Like 200. Yeah. The goal is to be synonymous and ubiquitous with and ubiquitous in hardware engineering fundamentally.
Okay.
And I want to see how big we can take this. Kind of goes back to that limitless ambition thing. We want to make sure that we're making one of the most important programs out there to influence and expedite the future as much as humanly possible.
So we talked about get shit done mentality earlier. Let's suppose you're interviewing someone and like, man, this guy, he's all over it. He's like go getter, get shit done.
Yeah.
And one thing, like, this motherfucker fooled us.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you like quickly get rid of him, or
yes.
like, okay?
That's the situations that we've run into have just been fit. It hasn't been like, this piece of shit or anything like that. And that almost makes it harder. It's like stage a company, how much support we can offer certain people, or, where they're at in their lives. And it sucks because, you always feel this immense responsibility to all of your employees. And I generally take the burden of any of those decisions personally, because I fucked up somewhere along the line. But luckily enough, we haven't had any assholes, that we've had to get rid of.
So the process is working so far.
Yeah, yeah. I wish we had. I wish some had been less spectacular people than they were, because they were all spectacular people. It just was time and place, you know. But also, when the decision is made, it is the old adage: do it as quickly as humanly possible. Is true.
Yeah.
Because time is our enemy. Full stop.
Yeah.
You know.
So how do you do that? Like, HR, they say like hire slow, fire fast. My thing is like, no one fires fast, right? Because no one wants to be the asshole. No one wants to say,
Yeah.
I can't fire Jason. It's his birthday, or
Yeah.
it's Friday, or it's numerous excuses.
Yep.
Next thing you know, I'm still working for you 6 months later. Your employees look at me like, what the hell's going on?
Exactly. That's one of the biggest things is like, how can people trust you to lead if you can't make hard decisions or do hard
Everyone
things?
sees Jason does not belong here.
Yeah, exactly. And and it's maybe not everybody does see that, but um, but it's your job as the dude running with the risk, or the person rather running with the risk, to see those things, and be direct and kind and caring about them. You know, the anytime it's happened with us, it's just been a timing thing,
Yeah.
largely, um, which sucks. But you can't just keep making excuses.
The people you hire, do they have to sign like non-competes or NDAs or anything like that? Or is that-
And yeah, everybody. I mean, that's one thing, for company advice. Get good legal. Get somebody who's been through the shit before.
Like,
Because
when I mean legal, he doesn't mean hire a divorce lawyer.
no,
Don't hire a personal injury lawyer
No.
to do startup stuff.
Yeah, get a great startup lawyer who's been through the shit. We have this incredible lawyer, who's founded multiple companies, and it's the difference between working with somebody that you don't feel like you can trust, and somebody that you feel like you can trust, and that has been through the shit and understands where you are as a company, as a young company, is mind blowing, for sure.
Yeah. So you give us a lot of great value and great advice. But can you give us any last minute advice on wisdom or anything you want to talk about?
Um, keep your friends close, and be good to your partner. And don't let those things fall by the wayside, or learn how to not let those fall by the wayside, because this can be absolutely all consuming. And while I give an insane amount to the company, if I were to lose, my fiance or family, or friends who are family, over it, I would regret it the rest of my life. And just don't do that shit. Like, figure out, you can't do everything all the time at once, but you do have to build your life and your friendships, around the kind of person that you are, and if you're the kind of person that's going to give everything, like I am to this. You have to have people around you that are supportive and understand that drive and motivation, and that if you can't pick up after 3 months of not talking because some shit's really hit the fan, have, choose wisely. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, John, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jason.
And to our listeners, thanks for your time as well. Remember to be great every day.